But in these horror movies that we watch, a lot of the notion comes from a white woman or a white guy, especially specifically like a hard-headed, like, macho guy or a dad of some kind. Yeah. Be like, oh, it's nothing. I'll walk towards this fucking sound of weirdness.
Two things that I would say to defend all white people, because I'm their spokesperson. These characters live in a world where, in theory, they have come across nothing supernatural up to this point. So they live in a world where some tall grass and a kid yelling, there is no fear there because it's just grass and it's a lost kid. I saw 2 at the mall last week. Like, it's not a big deal, right? Hello, and welcome to Judgmental Horror Junkies, a leftist horror movie club where we watch horror movies together, where the revolution meets the macabre.
That's a good one.
Thank you. I'm your host, Rio Dino Valentino, head doctor at the Asylum for the Insane, and with me, as always, is Goreship, the ship that sails the river Styx, number 1 in our hearts, number 1 on the water. How are you this fine day?
I am good. I am good. I'm glad to be back in the saddle to do this month's episode with another very solid viewing. Mm-hmm. I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
I find this an interesting pick because last month the short we did about the bathroom was all about time travel and all the weirdness of it. I was actually going to bring that up to you. And the movie that we have picked this time is Stephen King's In the Tall Grass, which kind of walks a similar path. Although this time through some grass.
It is directly in that whole sci-fi time loop realm that we had just done with the stall.
Yeah.
And kind of I found it funny that you chose another more sci-fi oriented leaning horror movie. In it, I don't think you meant to, but it was just funny the way that it's worked out the last couple of viewings.
I remembered that I remember that it was a, what am I trying to say? I remember that it dealt with, like, different realms. I had not remembered that it literally dealt with, like, traveling through time. That was as surprising for me as it might have been for people who were watching this for the first time.
Because I remember the first time watching it, like, not really catching on to the time jump thing until, like, about maybe half an hour into the movie. Yeah. Really understanding what was going on. But before we get too much further ahead of ourselves, once again, we are discussing In the Tall Grass, the Netflix adaptation of the Stephen King novel that he actually wrote with his son, Joe Hill.
Yes, and
Joe Hill is famous because he has done those comics that we love known as Lock and Key, which also was turned into a Netflix adaptation.
He also, weirdly, the writer, there are 3 people who get writing on the screenplay. The director, Vincenzo Natali. I can't do it. That guy, VN as his friends call him, he also helped. So the 3 of them together created the screenplay that eventually became In the Tall Grass, based on a novella by Stephen and Joe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is still so funny because, like, the first time I ever got introduced to Joe Hill, not a clue that he was Stephen King's son. Mm-mm. Of course, that's not something that, he...
When I read Lock and Key, unaware.
Yeah, it's because he purposely tries to get around, letting people know, it's like, hey, my dad's Stephen King, yeah, it's in my genetics, whatever, big deal. But
don't even worry about it.
I also did not know that, even though I saw this, like, back around the time that it came out, actually... First time I remember watching this was like right at the beginning of the pandemic when we were all locked inside.
When everyone watched it, because
it had actually been out for a few months by the time the lockdown hit, and that was like when I finally was inside long enough to start binging movies. And my fiance and I remember we watched this one along with several other ones, but this one was one of those ones where I was like, I've never read this Stephen King story, so I know nothing about it. I literally, and I still haven't read the actual story that it's based on.
I have not either.
Yeah, so this is one of those things.
Just so you know, this podcast is coming from the movie only.
Yeah, we're not doing a compare and
although,
contrast.
weirdly enough, I am going to mention another short story before we start, but continue.
Yeah, this one's more so just going straight off of what we watched in the movie, not trying to compare and contrast what was in the book to what was in the movie. Like, we might do for, like I did with Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Because I very intimately knew Hellraiser. This one, I have no clue. I just appreciate that this is a good movie.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. And one of the reasons I wanted to revisit it is because I've recently been reading a author whose name I always forget, but I've written down here, Algernon Blackwood. Algernon Blackwood, the thing he probably would be most known for, from people from our generation, was, do you remember, this is a weird little tangent, but Scary Stories Tell in the Dark.
Yeah.
There was a story called The Wendigo.
Yeah.
About, dude, my feet are on fire, my fiery feet. That was based on a short story by Blackwood.
Oh, okay.
Blackwood is a writer who both H.P. Lovecraft and Stephen King cite as sources. Another story he wrote, the one that's relevant to us today, is called The Willows. It's probably his second most favorite story. About two guys who are camping on this little island, this sand island in the middle of a raging river. And the river's just slowly eating the island because, it's made of sand. And it's not lasting. And there's willows everywhere. The thing that's holding the island together is these willows. And the wind's blowing through the willows. And while they're camped out at night, one of two things has happened. Either they are visited by entities from another world, or the sound of the wind going through the willows drives them insane. You can kind of read it both ways, which I really like, but it is something that his stories have influenced H.P. Lovecraft, they've influenced Stephen King, and you would be hard-pressed to tell me that In the Tall Grass was not at all influenced by the Willows. Now that you mentioned
that.
Yeah.
Because I was going to discuss that several times throughout this.
There was something about a large amount of plant where that's all you can see. It kind of gives you that same nihilistic feeling you get when you look out over the ocean and you can't see beyond the horizon. Like when you see land that just goes on forever with like something that can be moved by the wind, be it a forest, be it willows, be it corn. Another Stephen King movie, Children of the Corn. Mm-hmm. It's creepy. There's something there that just makes you feel isolated. You see no people. It's just the undulating
There's
green.
The unsettling feeling that you get with this. It's a weird feeling of isolation in a vast expansion. Yes. That's the best way to look at it.
And of nature not giving a fuck about you.
Exactly. It's like you're the only living, malleable thing out here.
Yeah. Well, you're not. That's the creepy thing. You're not. All of that wavy, freaky shit is alive as well.
The character thinks. Sorry, I should have rephrased that.
And
the character thinks that they are the only thing
as
alive.
One, almost as if it is all one living creature. And
there's some unanswered stuff that happens throughout this in regards to those living plants that we're about to discuss.
And the rock.
I still, even after rewatching it now, I still have some questions.
I got questions.
I may have had answers if I had read the story.
That is the thing.
I thought about that.
And now I wonder, because I will have a couple of complaints, and I wonder if I'm going to have egg on my face if someone in the comments is like, well, that's explained in the story. You should have read the story.
Speaking of our story, as always, here's a quick synopsis breakdown of what we are about to get into. So this is, again, as always, pulled directly from IMDb. Yep. You know what? I said that wrong. It's IMDb.
IMDb.
Yeah.
I pulled it from IMDb.
Yeah, sorry.
It's quite okay.
So the synopsis goes, after hearing a young boy's cry for help, a sister and brother venture into a vast field of tall grass in Oklahoma, but soon discover there may be no way out, and that something evil lurks within.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah, not too much, not too little.
No. You don't give anything away, and that's all that's in the first 10 minutes, so that's a good synopsis. Those are the synopsises I like, where you have enough to hook the person, but you don't go past like 10 minutes worth of film in what you're describing.
And so, as always, in my typical fashion,
give us a cast.
What were your initial thoughts going into this movie? Before we break down the cast,
all right.
Well, before we jump into the rest of that, what were your initial thoughts on this movie when you first saw it?
First time I saw it, I saw the runtime was an hour and 40 minutes, and I was like, how are you going to do an hour and 40 minutes of people wandering around in the grass? And then my second thought was like, oh, I bet this is going to have Children of the Corn vibes. Because, again, you've got the very first shot you get is the grass from overhead, and it just undulating in the wind. And Children of the Corn also does a lot of those, like...
I mean, you're not half wrong.
Corn from way up in the
is very creepy at times. Tobin is a very creepy fucking child at times.
Oh, yeah. You've got a child of the corn, at least. And there is a scene later where the weird grass heads show up, and they all seem to be kid height. A few of them are tall,
adults, yeah.
But a lot of them seem to be kids, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. But yeah, my first things were like, okay, Stephen King's going back to this well, kind of like when he did Christine, and then he did Maximum Overdrive, and then he did Sometimes They Come Back. I'm like, I get it, cars scare you, but
it's not the Terminators you need to fear, it's the cars.
It's the vroom vrooms and a drink machine in the case of Maximum Overdrive. Jesus. That's a movie I want to cover at some point.
That or Chopping Mall, where you have a security robot throughout the mall that just hacks people up.
Facts, that's a good one too. But so after watching it, I gave Stephen King an apology. I apologized to him. I was like, okay, that was totally different from what I was expecting. How dare you come for the king? Yeah, I came for the king, and I'm afraid I missed. But I apologized, and I enjoyed it very much. But it was not what I thought it was going to be going into it, for sure. What about you?
Same. I don't know why. When I initially saw the, I guess, trailer on Netflix for it, I thought it was going to be something much dumber than it really was. I just automatically assumed that, well, Stephen King's movies haven't had a great track record. Like, his stories being turned into movies haven't had the best track record.
Yeah, it's real hit.
Like, even Stephen King himself has not been a fan of his stories.
Stephen King straight up said, like, if someone wants my movie, I will give it to them, because if it's good, hey, you got a good movie version of my book. And if it's bad, just go read the book.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a win-win for him at this point.
I mean, he gets paid either way,
still
right?
Getting royalties. And, like, I only own 3 Stephen King books. I own Christine, I own Pet Sematary, and then I own part 1 of the Dark Tower series, Gunslinger.
Yeah.
So, those are only 3 Stephen King books I have owned and read.
I think I may only own 1 book of his. I've read a ton of them, but I think I only own a book called Everything's Eventual, which is one of his collection of short stories.
Oh, okay.
And the only reason I kept it when I got rid of all the rest was because it has a really cool cover. Like, the front of it... Yes, that's right. I'm going off on a tangent about a book cover. Deal with it. It's my podcast. It's a beautiful... It's all white. It's a beautiful table set. And there's a glass of wine... Or it's a glass of water, and there's 1 drop of blood in it. Then you turn it to the side, and there's a napkin, and someone has written in blood, "Oh God, please help us." You turn it to the back, it's just blood splatter everywhere over this white, like, kitchen. So when you unfold it, it's all one picture, right?
Oh, nice.
But it's such a good cover because, like, the front's so fucking classy, and then the side is like, help us, and then the back is just gore fest. It's great.
That's awesome.
So I kept the book, even though the stories, I couldn't tell you one thing about one short story in it. So, yes, I don't have a lot of Stephen King, but I have read a lot of Stephen King.
I will say this. While there have not been many good Stephen King movie adaptations or whatever, I will say there's one that has still stuck with me to this day. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, it freaked me the fuck out.
You are either going to say Pet Sematary or Shining?
No, Rose Red.
Rose Red? Really?
Rose Red, the movie. The movie they made.
Rose Red was a 2-night made-for-TV event.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but my fucking parents...
Of course, so was it. So I'm
not judging. My parents bought the DVD of it, though.
Yeah, I'm not judging.
And so we watched that. And I just remember always being freaked out by the ghost people and then the fucking things moving underneath the floorboards.
Okay.
Like, I have not maybe seen Rose Red. Watch it now that I'm much older, but when I was younger, that movie freaked me out.
If you want to cover it for the show, I have not seen Rose Red yet.
I've never read the story, but I do know that's the one movie of his that I watched.
Does that one have a story?
It's based off a story. It's based off a short story. Right. It's not a full-length novel or book or anything. Novella. It's just based off a short story that he wrote, and it was a good freaky fucking movie. again, maybe it's just my childhood trauma goggles that are stuck on that it remembers it being creepy, and maybe today I'd be like, oh, that's not them. But I will say that, his writing, he does have like very solid thematics where the evil is never seen, but it's always felt.
Yeah, and I also think in his writing, his character development is really good. Like, he can make you relate to a character, maybe not directly, but be like, oh yeah, I know that fucking guy, in like a paragraph, like just a couple sentences, and you're like, you immediately are like, yeah, I know this guy. Like, this is a guy that I work with, or this is a guy that lives down the street, or this is the girl that I used to have a crush on in 4th grade. Like, he's very good at very quickly establishing a character's personality, and I think in this, I'll point it out when it happens.
Oh, right off the jump! Right off the jump, you can get
such good parts of like,
vibe.
I know you. Yeah,
everyone's vibe is pretty easy to read. Yeah. But the reason why I brought up Rose Red is because just like in Rose Red, where you're made to fear what you can't see on the screen, like there's nothing being shown on the screen, but you know that you're supposed to be afraid of what you can't be seen. It's the same thing when I watched the trailer for In the Tall Grass. Like you're supposed to be afraid of something that is in the tall grass, you just don't know what it is. Yeah. So I thought this was a creature feature at first. My initial thoughts was I thought it was a creature feature.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I thought it was. And I was like, Stephen King makes creature feature stuff? Like,
every once in a blue moon he will. Yeah. I mean, what is Cujo if not a creature feature? What is it if not a creature feature?
True.
Yeah.
True.
So he there is no horror that he doesn't touch down on, at least for a book or two, which I guess you can do if you write 14 books every 2 months. So yeah, I guess you can really hit everything at that point.
But with that being said, speaking of our eclectic cast of characters, in this movie we have at least one big name star. I will say this, one big name star that I recognize, and that would be Patrick Wilson, who plays Ross Humboldt. Yes. Patrick Wilson is most famously known for let's go ahead and say it, the Conjuring movies, where he plays Ed Warren.
Yeah,
he's a very big staple in those. He's also played in several other sci-fi movies. Yeah, he plays a good psycho.
He was so good in this.
Plays a good psycho. Yeah. And then you have Rachel Wilson. To my knowledge, there's no relation. They're not married or anything. Okay. But Rachel Wilson plays Natalie Humboldt, Ross Humboldt's wife. Yeah. Then you have Will Bowie Jr., who plays Tobin Humboldt. Creepy fuck sometimes.
Another really good actor.
Yeah.
Again, kid acting?
Yeah.
Top notch.
You have Leila de Oliveira as Becky DeMuth.
Yeah.
Avery Whitted as Cal DeMuth, fuck him, and Harrison.
He reminds me of the little Weasley guy on 2.5 Men.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, like to the point that I would, because I don't watch 2.5 Men. I've only seen like the occasional clip of it. I'm like,
he reminds you of Alan. Yeah. But and then you have Harrison Gilbertson as Travis McKean. Now I've seen him on other stuff. I just couldn't reliably recall what I had seen him in, and he was the only other face I slightly recognized.
Yeah, for me, he looked like so many. Again, like Ross pegs him right at the beginning. He looks like he's in a band that performs once a week at their local bar.
Dive bar, yeah.
They cast that role perfectly.
So yeah, we have this is our main group of characters that are going to be seen throughout the film. There's no other real tidbit players in this movie.
I mean, there's the old lady at the gas station. That's it. And that is it.
Yeah. Aside from that, everybody that you see in the movie is what you get.
Yeah. A couple extra grass heads, I guess. But yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's our cast. Pretty much these are the 6 people we are going to kind of follow, or 7 people we're going to follow around through the whole thing.
So now that we have our cast of characters introduced, let's jump right into the movie.
Let's go into our opening, which again is some wavy grass.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful artistic overhead shot of some wavy slow motion tall grass. It's very well shot, very beautifully done, but they add a layer of creep factor by adding these weird
whisper sounds.
It starts with the typical horror movie, kind of like the weird cello noises, and then slowly you hear whispers start picking up, and then the whispers turn into screams.
The whispers are fun because that's kind of the sound grass makes rubbing against itself. Yeah. Anyway, when the wind blows through the grass, it kind of sounds like some like whispering to someone. So you can hide and the movie does it a bunch. You can hide the whispers in that, and then slowly increase it until you can hear it with over the sound of the grass, and then it overtakes it, and then, as you said, it turns into screams.
Once we get that crescendo of screams, we get the title, which I thought was pretty cool, and I don't know if it was intentional, probably intentional, but the font format that they chose for In the Tall Grass was the same typeface they used for Children of the Corn.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, very subtle nod, but I noticed it was like that font face looks very, familiar, and when I Googled it, I was like, oh yeah, it's like the same kind, almost identical to what they used for Children of the Corn title sequence.
Holy crap.
Yeah, very, maybe it's just because they're both in tall grass, weeds, whatever.
It's just a font that looks good next to plants waving. It's got a nice...
And now that we've had the crescendo of screams, we have typical opening sequence where you have a car driving into the forefront of the view.
I wrote, if you're going to San Diego, make sure to put a baby in your belly.
Yeah, right.
If you're going to San Francisco, you want a flower in your hair. If you're going to San Diego, have a baby in your belly.
My first thought was, all right, so you got this car pulling up, playing this old, I like the song. I forget the name of the song, but I liked it. It was a very nice, chill mood setter.
Yeah.
And my first thought was like, man, driving across the country with your siblings while they're just smacking their lips, eating a fucking juicy burger, and you're pregnant. Yeah, I'd feel sick too. Yeah. Mainly from hearing him smack his fucking lips the whole time.
Yeah, they this movie has a very interesting relationship with Cal, because
he wants to fuck his sister.
That, yes, but what I was going to save that later. But that is part of it, because it gives you a very interesting relationship with Cal, because right at the beginning she is looking at him with disgust. In fact, he makes her sick. Not him specifically, it's because she's
pregnant.
Morning sickness, because she has a baby. But I feel like you keep going on this kind of roller coaster with Cal, because he will do things where you're like, you know what, Cal's a stand-up guy. He's doing the right thing here. And then he'll do something that makes you be like, oh no, Cal's a piece of shit. And then he'll do something else.
Or he's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, or he's a weirdo. And then he'll do something else, and you'll be like, no, actually, okay, maybe I had Cal wrong. And it's not until the dropping scene, which we'll get at, in the bowling alley, where you're like, okay, the dice are cast. You are a piece of shit. There is no more redemption for you beyond this moment. You had a chance, kid, right, but you fucked up there. Let's go and break that redemption
down. Let's go and break that analysis down, because you were absolutely dead fucking right from the jump. So they pull over to the side of the road, and the pregnant woman, her name is Becky, she decides to start, the smell's too much, she starts throwing up. And in the course of doing this, Cal tries to be like, yeah, that's normal. That's what your women's bodies go through when you're pregnant, and it's just part of the hormones, and it's going to keep happening. Yeah. She takes a little jab at him. She's like about women's bodies. Yeah. And he's like, not as much as I wish. And then he gives her this really fucking creepy, incestuous look when he looks his prego sister, who is not looking at him. She can't see the look he's giving. Yeah. He is just very creepily looking up or down, like. You can see it in his eyes. Mm-hmm. The look he registers, you're like, that is a Jaime Lannister look. That is what the Game of Thrones fuckers did.
Yeah, and at this point, not at this point because I already seen the movie once, but when I watched it the first time, I caught the look, but I misinterpreted it. I was like, oh, he's thinking about some woman's body right now. Look at it.
But when he said it and he looked at his sister,
well, I just thought he was looking at her because they were talking. But then his eyes, I was like, oh, are you thinking about naked girls right now while you're hanging out with your sister? That's weird. So I didn't connect it to he's looking at his sister lustily. I connected it to, but I saw the lust in his eyes. I was so good acting.
It was the way he said it, and then the way he looked at the same time saying it. Because when he says, "Yeah, not as much as I wished I knew," he looks her up and down with that weird look. When it's what he says while doing it. Yeah. That's what really drove home. I was like, "Oh, this dude's a fucking weirdo. This guy's fucking weird."
So, and also it takes a minute before you realize it's brother and sister. Because I also at first was like, well, he obviously knew enough to get a baby in you, because I didn't realize that they were siblings.
Yeah. And then he turns and he says, well, don't worry about...
She's saying we should turn around and go back.
Yeah, in the conversation, he's like, you don't need to worry about what mom and dad want.
That's when I connected.
He's like, mom and dad, it's not about what they want. You need to think about what you want for once.
Yeah.
You're so busy about pleasing everyone else and taking care of everyone but yourself.
For a little bit of Cal credit, he says you shouldn't even care about what I think.
Yeah.
You should only... Yeah. You shouldn't even care about what the baby thinks. You need to think about yourself right now. And again, I'll give Cal credit for that.
He was supportive. He was very supportive in that manner.
But she's kind of we don't know why they're going to San Diego or why she wants to go back suddenly at this juncture. But Cal's basically like, well, you can if you want, but this decision is yours to make. Stop thinking about what mom and dad want or I want. And then we hear
a kid starts crying out from the tall grass field right beside them.
In the grass, yeah. And he sounds like he's about 5 feet out in the grass.
Yeah, not super far out, but you can't see him.
And it's a very funny scene because, Cal's like, oh, I'm going to pull the car off the road. And I'm like, why? You can see for 10,000 miles in both directions. Do you think a car's going to hit you? Luckily, there is a church right across the street.
They already have several vehicles in it.
Which, it's weird that at no point did they think to look in the church because there were so many cars there. Travis, who comes along later, will look in the church because there's a bunch of cars there. But yeah, it's weird that he pulls right in with all those other cars and it never occurs to him.
Yeah, we're the people that these cars belong to.
Although I will say this, the cars looked older. And that was one of the things, a little subtle nod I liked. Like, some of the cars looked like they were from the 50s and the 70s. Like, how long has this grass been eaten, folks? Because there's a lot of different cars from a lot of different eras.
Yeah,
here.
like, how long has it been going? Because, if it is a time loop, how long have those people been going in circles in there?
Yeah, it raises a bunch of very interesting questions, just the make and models of the cars. But he pulls in next to it and gets out next to her, and him and this kid start having a yelling match.
Like, where are you? I'm back here. Can you see me? No. And it's like, well, where are your parents? Like, they're lost in here too. I don't know where to go.
Cal says something like, dude, you're like 10 feet from us. Just follow my voice.
Yeah. And when he said that, then all of a sudden, Tobin's voice is much further away. He's like, I was like, where are you? I kept walking, but you weren't there. His voice is much further away. And, if you don't pay attention very closely at those first couple of conversations, you won't notice Tobin's voice moving from left to right to farther back to back.
I feel like a broken record. We say this a lot. But once again, good Foley work.
Yeah.
The way they make the sound. I imagine if you had stereo. I don't have stereo hooked up to my TV, but I imagine if you had stereo, it would be even cooler because it would sound like it was coming from different parts of your house. But yeah, his voice is moving, and then you get your first kind of creep fest because you hear a woman's voice.
Stop calling for people. Stop telling them to come in here.
And at that point,
I gotta ask though.
I was like, oh, this is shady AF.
I gotta ask, why is it the most white people horror movie trope to go towards the sounds of distress? Why is it the most common thing that... because I am of the volition that, if you hurt something, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
That's my nature.
I will say...
But in these horror movies that we watch, a lot of the notion comes from a white woman or a white guy, especially specifically a hard-headed, macho guy or a dad of some kind.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, it's nothing. I'll walk towards this fucking sound of weirdness.
Two things that I would say to defend all white people, because I'm their spokesperson. These characters live in a world where, in theory, they have come across nothing supernatural up to this point. So they live in a world where some tall grass and a kid yelling, there is no fear there because it's just grass and it's a lost kid. I saw 2 at the mall last week. It's not a big deal, right? And in this case, I think there's something psychological going on because, as we will find out later, Becky is going to San Diego to give up her child. that she is pregnant with. There's a group of adopted parents that she is going to give birth to and then hand that child over and then, I guess, go back to Kansas or wherever the fuck they're from.
Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah, so there is probably some guilt coming from her where she's like, I'm giving up my child. This child needs help. I should go in and help. Like, there's probably some subconscious guilt going on there that's
spurring her on. But you can also see she's also very hesitant, even though she's...
How?
He's so ready to play hero.
To impress Becky.
He's so ready to play hero that he's like, fuck it, I'll go in.
Yeah, he wants to impress Becky. He also wants to get rid of this kid because he doesn't like this, like, symbol of Travis.
But how does this kid crying out for help and then a woman who he hadn't heard prior say, no, stop telling them to come in here. You know, like, don't come in. She's trying to warn him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've been in here for days. How is, like, none of your red flags going up?
Yeah.
Like, if a woman's voice says, hey, don't come in here, like, it's a lie, I'd be like...
Well, she doesn't say it's a lie. She's talking to her son, stop, like...
bringing people in.
Yeah, stop bringing people in. And again... the voice, at least some of the time, sounds like it's like
right in front
10
of him.
feet into the grass. Like, you could just walk and grab that kid and yank him out. Like, no problem. So, the grass is tricking them, obviously. And, yeah, Cal's trying to impress Becky. Becky's trying to deal with some guilt, I think some subconscious guilt she has, and then later
maternal guilt,
maternal guilt, and then also she has to go in after Cal because Cal goes in there.
Yeah, his dumbass just charges into the brush, gung ho. He's like, all right, let's find this fucking kid and get out of here. And so Becky follows right behind him,
and as soon as they're in deep enough, Tobin stops yelling.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's gone, and they're calling for him, and Cal is just a little bit too persistent. He's a little bit further ahead of Becky, so they get separated. But while Becky is walking in there, she decides, hey, let me try and call 911 for emergency.
Wise.
While I'm walking in this grass to try
smart.
and get someone to find us out here to bring rescue for this kid and his family, maybe.
And she has about 5 steps of a good phone conversation.
And then it just goes out.
Yeah.
Like it almost looked like the phone shut off itself. But she lost service completely, and you're like, okay, well, that's fucking weird.
Yeah. Which, you know, any movie that takes place after 2010 has to eliminate phones as an option within the first 10 minutes because otherwise phones solve 90% of your problems in horror movies. And so you have to knock those out quick.
Well, then the weird shit starts intensifying right after this because she loses the call. They call up for Tobin again, and he finally responds, but now he's even further away.
Well, I think...
he's like, are you looking for me?
Come deeper.
Yeah.
He literally says, come further.
Yeah.
Come further in. And
Becky's like, I don't get a good feeling. Something weird is happening here. She's like, I just want to find this kid and let's get out of here, Cal.
And at first they're doing like dirty children's limericks to each other to like try and stay in contact. But Becky starts yelling at Cal because she's like, why... stop moving. Like, you're moving. And Cal's like, I'm not fucking moving.
It's funny. He notices it first, but didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He notices it first because she's calling out, and he thinks she's over there. Yeah. And she says again, and she's like right behind, like over.
He moves to left. He looks to the left, and then when she yells again, she's to the right. And I guess he's like, oh man, my ears are playing tricks with me. But I love the jumping scene. The fucking jumping scene where they're like, okay, forget this kid right now. We need to get back together. So let's count to 3 and then do a jump so we can see
that's what I was saying.
other.
It's right before they do the jump up part. She's like, I got a bad feeling. Something weird's going on. Like, here, keep speaking. And he's like, stop moving. I'm not moving.
Yeah. And then she's like, okay, stop. Like, we
stay where you're at.
Yeah, we have to get back together.
Jump up so I can see where you're at.
And he's like, can you jump? Because
you're pregnant.
And she's like, yes, I can jump. So they count to 3, they jump, and they're like, oh, thank God.
Oh, you're not that far away. You're
right
maybe
there.
like 20 feet away.
Let's jump one more time and then head towards each other. And I love this fucking part.
When she
jumps again.
And like her realization.
That he's so far away this time.
Like she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, holy shit, he went from 20 feet away to almost like a football field away. What the fuck?
And it's so surprising to her that she falls backwards and lands in the mud. And I was like, that was such a good scene because I got creeped out as soon as that.
It messes with your psyche a little bit.
Yeah, everything else that happened, I was like, okay, typical horror movie stuff. Like, it's fine. But this, I was like, oh, that was good. That one got me in the goosebumps. So yeah, the jump scene was and
then this whole realizing that they keep moving apart from each other in different directions and like coming and going.
Yeah,
they finally accept. Okay, something fucked is happening here. We don't know what it is, but we know something is really, really weird here.
Yeah.
And they haven't quite figured out that, like, they're not technically moving away from each other. They're in two different times away from each other.
Yeah. And Cal at this point finds Teddy the dog.
Freddy the dog.
I'm sorry, Freddy the dog. He finds
dead golden retriever.
Very sad. I don't like seeing dead dogs. I think all horror movies should have trigger warnings if a dog dies in the movie. That's my personal belief. But he doesn't. He lets out a yell, and Becky's like, "What is it?" He doesn't tell her, which I think is probably the good move.
Yeah.
What good?
And she's like, "Is like?" He's like, "Oh, I just thought I saw the kid." And she's like, "My favorite part is like, she's like, who cares about the kid? This is about us right now."
Yes, I wrote.
I love
forget about the kid. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
She's like, "Forget about the kid. This is about us right now."
Yeah. And, man, Cal will not give up on that kid. Like, and I also think it's very funny that at some point the kid tells him his name is Tobin, but Cal just keeps yelling out "kid." Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you know his name. You could yell his name.
And it's so this is another thing where
that was really funny.
Right after he finds
his name is Tobin.
Right after he finds the dead dog. And they keep trying to find each other. You know, time just seems to kind of be dragging here. Like, they've been walking and walking, but it's not nighttime yet.
No.
Like, it's so weird.
They're getting, like, you can tell time's going by because they're all sweaty and dirty, and the floor of this grassy place is so muddy.
Yep.
So they're, like, making squish noises through the mud. And Becky stumbles across Ross.
Yeah, Tobin's dad.
Yeah, and Ross... When you first meet him, he seems like a pretty nice... hey,
nice you guys got lost in here too?
Yeah, and he's like... she's immediately scared and nervous. And Ross is like doing everything to talk her down. He's making all the right moves. He's not approaching her. He's got his hands up.
He's like, hey, I can show you how to get back to the road.
He's like, my wife and my kid are here, Tobin. And she's like, oh, yeah, well, that's what got us stuck in here. And he's like, I know the way back. And she's like, well, then why haven't you left? Like, she's very suspicious. It's like, well, why haven't you left? And he's like, well, my wife and kid are still in here. And I was like,
what kind of question
is that? That's a pretty good cover story. Yeah. Whether it's true or not, it's a great reason to not leave. Like,
when she asked him that, I was like, he literally just said, because his wife and kid are still in here.
Yeah.
Like, he might know how to get out, but he's like, fuck, I can't leave without them.
Right.
And so it seemed plausible.
I believed it at first. And while he is talking to her, Cal also stumbles across another person in these woods. He finds Tobin. And Tobin says the creepy thing that you absolutely have to remember because it is the most important rule of the grass.
It's also finally nighttime now.
Oh, yeah, and they've been walking through the night.
Yeah, it's nighttime now, and like they still haven't somehow reunited through all this bullshit. And he keeps calling out for her, but as he's like yelling, nobody is saying anything. He can't hear Becky. You don't hear Ross. Like,
yeah, it's just silence.
So in this area where he's at, like all of a sudden she's nowhere near where he needs her to be.
Yeah,
because they were just like yelling for each other's name, and all of a sudden it just stops. Yeah. Then creepy ass Tobin shows up behind him,
and he says, "You can find things, but it's easier if they are dead." The grass...
The field doesn't move dead things.
The field doesn't move dead things. And man, that is... Whew.
Now, with Tobin saying that, I think it was smart. Cal straight up asked him, like, did you lure us in here?
Yeah.
Cal straight up was like, did you do this on purpose? Did you, like, lure us in here?
And Tobin, he says no. He says the field lures people in. I was lured in by...
a man who was calling my name.
Who was calling my name. And, yeah, which we will come to discover what that's all about later as well.
This really got me right here when he's like, your sister's going to die soon.
Yeah.
Bro, I just found and met you. What the fuck?
Tobin, you need to learn there's a time and place for everything, including telling me that my sister's going to die. And Cal's like,
how do you know?
You know where my sister is? How do you know she's my sister? Like, he's got a lot of questions, obviously.
The Rock told me.
Yeah.
It knows everything.
Yeah. Well, no. What's it say?
No, this is the direct quote from the subtitles.
Well, he says something. either before or after that. He says something like the grass knows everything. The rock teaches you to talk to the grass, or something along those lines. I didn't write it down, but either before or after that. If that's a direct quote, either before or after that, he says like, the grass knows everything. The rock teaches you to understand the grass, I think is how he says it.
No, the rock told me it knows everything. It teaches you where to go and how to talk to the grass.
How to talk to the grass. Thank you. Yeah. And Cal's like, oh, well, let's go meet your friend the rock.
Yeah, so he takes off with Tobin, like, no questions asked.
And there is Dwayne Johnson, right in the middle of the field. You can smell what he's cooking, my friend.
And so, while Tobin and Cal are heading off towards the giant rock...
Those weird, unlikely allies.
We cut back to Ross, who is having, in my opinion, a very oddly intrusive pregnancy conversation with Becky and about her life and
Ross
what
and
she's
Becky
going to do.
Kind of exchanging backstories, and Ross is being very... I think what he's trying to do is make her less nervous, because like, oh, well, when my wife was pregnant, so you remember, I'm married, I'm a nice guy, I've got a kid. But yeah, it came across as a little like intrusive and
oh, you getting rid of it?
Yeah.
Oh, the father not in the picture?
Yeah,
just shit like that. I was like, bro.
But it's interesting, he knows all those things just looking at her. Supposedly, that is not true.
Yeah.
He knows all that shit because The Rock told him. The Rock's been spilling the beans on these people.
And when they're having these invasive conversations, Becky trips over a fanny pack that was down on the ground.
It has pills, scissors,
and a bloody clump of hair.
Which, worrisome. I would say that's worrisome. But she looks up, and it's funny. It's right after Ross tells her not to get separated from him.
And she looks up, and he's gone.
Yeah. She stumbled across the fanny pack, and that's all it took for her to fucking, disobey the don't get lost rule, which is very funny to me. Cal, on the other hand, doesn't get lost. He follows Tobin, and they come out to this clearing.
There's one little part right before we get back to Tobin and them.
Okay.
When she gets separated from Ross, some creature thing in the tall grass behind her, like, sneaks up on Becky and, like, growls at her and tries to grab her, and that's when we eventually hear her scream.
Yeah.
But, like, right before it cuts Tobin and Cal...
I thought we got a Tobin Cal scene at the Rock, and then cut back to her, and then cut back to them still at the Rock, but I could...
Well, the creature thing happens, like right after she's, like, Ross, and she hears, like, the growling behind her.
Okay.
And then, like, she's turning, and you just see rustling. And then it cuts them. And then it cuts back to her when she's screaming and she's down on the ground.
Got it.
So it's just the quick jump cuts, but the initial, like, whatever fucking thing was waiting there in the field with her.
Yeah.
Like, kind of, like, surprise attacked her, somewhat.
Fair enough. So Cal and Tobin come into this clearing, and there's a big rock in the center. How would you describe this rock? I described it as one of the sin spawn from the very beginning of Final Fantasy X, but that only helps if you played the very beginning of Final Fantasy X. I do not. It's a very strange.
To me, it looked like one of the meditation temples in The Witcher. Like one of the little rock formations that you go to pray at. Like a rune.
Okay, yeah. But only the center rock.
Yeah.
Like the center, and no hole at the top.
Nope, no, it was just that like one solid rock in the ground.
It's got like carvings on the side of it.
Very primitive caveman-like drawings too.
Yeah, very stick figure carvings on the side. Also, excuse me, because it's a clearing, you can see like the sky, and it's completely dark now. It's clear sky, you got a nice moon shot, and the moon is shining down on the rock. The reveal of the rock is I'm not doing it justice. It's a nice reveal.
Okay,
very epic.
Now this is going to be my first bugaboo right here with this continuity error.
Okay.
So we get to the clearing. Cal is with Tobin. Tobin is trying to convince Cal to touch the rock.
Yeah.
Tobin touches the rock, and you see his arm hair stand up.
It was great.
And he's like, "Ooh, that feels good."
Yeah.
Now hear me out.
I liked it.
This is a different timeline Tobin. This Tobin has already seen some shit and some stuff. Because here shortly, when we get back to Tobin once he's separated again, he's telling everyone not to touch the rock. But this Tobin is trying to tell them to touch the rock.
This is the Tobin who was forced to touch the rock by Ross. From the future of one of the
But this is where we get lost a little bit with the time jump stuff. Because this Tobin has already seen everybody die. Yes. He's already seen people die multiple times. He's been here for fucking days watching his dad just kill and regenerate, kill, regenerate.
Yeah.
And this kind of threw me off because I didn't notice it until my fiance pointed out that, like, wait, didn't he just say not to touch it? Like maybe like 10 minutes later when they're all meeting back up again. He's the opposite. He's like, don't go near it. Whereas this one, he's like, come on, Cal, come on, just touch it once.
Yeah. This is Tobin that's been corrupted. This is evil, corrupt Tobin. Until Tobin touches the rock, he's a good kid.
Well, that's why he gave off such creepy vibes to begin with.
Yeah, because that's not good Tobin.
Because now the next Tobin you see for the rest of the movie is not that same Tobin.
Yeah. It's also very interesting that, like, he knows the rules of the grass, which would be your first tip. That, like, he knows more than he's telling.
Why didn't he get out? If he's already touched rock, he knows how to get out.
Because what you want him.
And that whispering noise starts picking up again and is starting to talk to Cal, and his eyes start getting all dilated, and he's like, moving towards it. And if you look up at the sky, the sky starts moving into this weird, like, lunar eclipse, technically. And it's like this weird ritual phase is about to happen, and he's locked in. Cal's about to touch it, and all of a sudden you hear Becky scream for him, and he stops. It's the only thing that saves him.
Oh yeah, there's actually another scene too where someone's getting ready to touch it,
and Natalie
gets stopped. So Tobin says, "I'm sorry, it's too late." Trying to get him to go ahead and finish the touch thing because he doesn't want to run it off after Becky, but of course
Becky's screaming for someone to get away from her.
Yeah, so Cal goes tearing ass back into the grass, and Tobin's like, "You'll never find her that way." Again, trying to get him to stick around in the clearing, touch the rock. But
and
Cal doesn't listen. He's gone, baby.
We fade off into the grass, and night has turned back into day, and we get another truck driving down the road. Now, we get introduced to a new character. This character happens to be Becky's baby daddy, Travis.
Yes, but at this point, we don't know none of that. We're just like, who's this motherfucker? He stops at the gas station and pulls out a picture of Cal and Becky, and then we're like, at that point, I was like, okay, this is probably the father of the baby. Even though when Ross and Becky were talking, Becky said he didn't want to be a part
he abandoned
the baby's life.
He just, like, dipset.
Yeah.
Deadbeat baby.
And Ross was like his loss. Which is, again, Ross saying all the right things at this juncture. So Travis is at this gas station, talks to a little old lady, shows her the picture. And I don't know if she said, "Oh yeah, I gave them gas, they went that way," or if he just kept driving on the road because she didn't know. Because the next scene is him at the church.
Yeah, well, actually,
no, we get a scene of him driving by the bowling alley first, which I should have mentioned. We also see Cal and Becky drive by at the very beginning of the movie.
But they didn't look at it like he did. Like,
no, you see it out of the corner of the camera. I only knew to look for it because I'd seen the movie once before.
Yeah.
But yeah, Travis also drives by said bowling alley and goes to the church. He's getting holy up in here.
And it's funny, when he's going down the road, he almost passes the church because he's so distracted by the bowling alley in the grass. Car. And as he looks back, he looks over, he sees the church, and then he hits the brakes. Yeah. He's like, wait, I recognize that fucking van.
I know that dumbass. That's Cal's dumbass car.
And so now, when he gets into the parking lot and he's looking at the car, you notice that hamburger that was just fresh yesterday is now rotten and molded with maggots.
And the car is covered in, like, pollen and dust and stuff. Like, it's been parked there for a long time.
Yeah.
And he wisely is like, oh, they parked here and went into the church. So he goes into the church. And
calling out, looking for them. And
there's a pretty green church on the inside. I really dug this, like, church. Like, the stained glass windows. And it had a very good look at it. Think the church where the bride gets killed in Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Except
very similar
across the street from grass and not desert. But yeah, like, it's got that old church in the middle of nowhere look to it. And it's a great set piece, is what.
And he goes to this abandoned church looking for them, calling out for their name, and he walks back to the very back of the aisle where the minister's pew is, and there's just this one single solid door. He goes to reach for it, and it's locked. And the first time I ever watched that, I was like, "The fuck is this? The point is this door for?" And that's still part of my question at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually, and I'll ask you. But yeah, the locked door that holds all the secrets.
Yeah.
And so he leaves, and when he's about to get back in his car, he sees Becky's book she was reading.
Jane Eyre.
on the ground.
Or air.
Sorry. And he opens it and it's got her name, and he's like, wait, she has fucking been here.
Yeah, and it's very close to the grass. And
so,
he's like, oh, did she walk into the grass?
Yeah, he gets, the bride, he puts 2 and 2 together. He's like, fuck it, I'll walk in there and try and find her too.
Yeah. Now, Travis, a little smarter than Cal and Becky. He's
Boy Scout maneuver.
Yeah, he's tying the grass in knots as he goes.
To make markers for where he's been. To make
markers. Unfortunately, the grass outwits him here and
unties
alive. Itself after he goes by, which I thought was a nice touch.
This next scene right here tripped me out.
Yeah.
So as Travis is walking, he's walking, muddy ground and whatnot. You see all the markers he's doing are untying themselves behind him.
Yeah.
He's not noticing.
Yeah.
He looks up and he's sweating. The sun is directly in front of him overhead. He goes to take a step forward, and all of a sudden, the sun is gone. And it's directly behind him. And he's like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
He's like, wait, the sun was just ahead of me.
That sun jump
beating down on me.
It was good, and it was also subtle.
It happened so quick, because he even was like, wait, what did I just turn around by accident?
Yeah, it was a good bit. I also, tired of hearing people yell Becky's name. I'll say that. Between Cal and Travis, I'm like, oh, Becky can't be worth all this.
I just thought that the quick and subtle sun jump thing was another really solid way to establish that the flow of time is fucked here.
Yeah, and then we get another jump, and now it's nighttime.
Yep.
Although this is a natural jump because he's
been wandering around all day.
He's been wandering around all day. Now it's night, and man, he's not having a good time. But we have another scene with Tobin.
I thought about this too. And I was like, of course this would happen this way. So he's laying down. He's finally trying to get some sleep, and he keeps hearing noises coming from the tall grass behind him.
Yeah.
And what does he get for it? He gets a nice little fucking jump scare from Tobin for all of his troubles.
Yeah. And you get some more of the grass, the grass sounds turning into whispers and turning into human voices.
Tobin asks him, do you hear that?
Yeah. And I'm like, I hear it. And basically, Travis kind of bullies Tobin into, revealing Becky's location. Once Tobin mentions Becky... Travis shakes him. Travis gives him a little shaky shake, asking to find out where she is. Now this is not touched rock yet, Tobin.
Yeah. This Tobin is still.
Tobin is still pure of heart.
This is the Tobin that met Travis the first time.
Yeah.
And it's funny, this interaction, whenever he's like, do you hear that? And it's the whispering, laughing voices. And he's like, who? Who is it? And he's like, everyone else. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, that's creepy.
Everyone else. Everyone that's lost.
And that's when Travis gets even more confused, because Tobin tells him, he's like, oh, I already know who you, we've met.
Yeah.
Because he is the whole reason why Tobin's in this to begin with. So it's a paradox.
Yeah.
And now...
Yeah. We will, very shortly, we will get... that scene, which I like.
Yeah.
It feels weird because it feels like the movie's starting over, but with a new group.
Yep.
That's actually an old group. But
yeah.
Before we do that, Travis insists on being taken to Becky, and Tobin's like, I can do it. Are you sure?
Yeah.
And Travis, again...
he's like, take it to her now.
Yelly and kind of bully, which I understand. He's worried about his baby mama.
He yanks that kid's arm pretty fucking hard.
That's why I say he's a little rough. But Tobin does lead him to Becky's corpse.
Yeah, and it's been there for a while. It's been rotten.
It's got flies on it. There's a lot of CGI flies in this movie, and Becky is covered in them. It's gross.
And, of course, Tobin says the field doesn't move dead things. It just makes it easier to find them.
And he finds this little crab necklace that I
guess it's sentimental to them, yeah.
Yeah, or they had together when they were on the pier or something. So he takes her little crab necklace. He's looking at it, and he's sad for some reason. He must have liked this Becky girl.
I guess he did love her, even though he was going to be a deadbeat daddy.
Yeah. But yeah, Tobin. After Tobin's bullying, we're going to go to when Tobin's family got here. It's Tobin and his parents, Ross and Natalie, pulling up.
It's got to be a trip for Travis, though, because he's like, just weeping, grieving over his dead love, and Tobin just disappears. He's like, what the fuck? And so he has to spend the night.
Tobin's like, you're bumming me out.
Yeah, Tobin disappears.
Yeah.
And so Travis just sleeps in the field next to the dead body.
His dead wife. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But meanwhile, we get a little flashback to how Tobin and his parents got caught here. And when I was talking about characters really revealing who they are, when Natalie and Tobin are walking towards the grass, Ross is like, don't go in there, it's private property.
And he's on the phone having a business call the entire time. He's not fully there as a dad or a husband.
No, and it's funny because later he will straight up say, if Natalie had been watching Tobin and been a better mother, we wouldn't all be stuck in here. Oh,
dude, he blames Tobin, he blames Natalie, he blames everyone but himself for anything that happens.
And it's interesting because the one that wasn't paying attention was definitely him. But yeah, Tobin and the dog, they hear Travis's voice yelling for Tobin.
Yeah, and it's only because Travis recognizes Tobin's voice.
Yeah.
So this is, again, this paradox fucking through everything through a loop. Is like, what came first?
And I will give Tavin all the credit in the world, because as soon as he realizes that Ross, Natalie, and Tobin and the dog are coming towards him, he's like, no, do not come in the grass. Go back. Travis is lost in the grass. He's been there at least 36 hours with his dead baby mama.
No food, no water.
No food, no water. And he still is not willing to risk these strangers, or at least 3 out of 4 of them are strangers, not willing to risk their lives.
Yeah, and he's like, wait, don't come in here, don't come in here. And they only come in because the dog ran in.
Yeah.
And this literally is verbatim what Tobin told us earlier happened to him. He's like, a
man called my voice. Yeah. And that man, turns out, was Travis. The grass is kind of manipulating time to its advantage to get more victims.
And so now that Tobin, Ross, Natalie, and Travis are all in here,
the gang's all here.
Yeah, we get back. It jumps to night again.
Yeah,
and night rolls in, and not only Ross has lost both Tobin and Natalie, he starts getting mad at them. This is what we were just talking about. Yep. He starts getting on this little tangent saying that kid never listens. His mother doesn't actually be a mother. This would have never happened if she just watched him for once.
He is very happy to blame other people.
And like immediately he's just like, this kid's rotten. This kid's fucking just like the worst kid. He doesn't listen to a damn thing, and he'd probably listen if his mom was actually a mom.
Yeah, and he finds his way to the rock, which in this scene kind of looked like a big poop. Just the angle they picked for this particular shot.
Yeah. I thought initially it looked like the giant fucking turd meteorite from Joe Dirt.
Oh yeah,
yeah, looks very much like that.
Yeah. And in this shot, I got real poop vibes.
But when he touches the rock, you can see that okay, so this explains how he got possessed and why he was so fucking weird this entire time. Yeah. And what are your thoughts on when people touch the rock and they get possessed by the grass, when it shows the grass growing into their bloodstream or into their hearts? Or
I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Like, I liked it, and it also explained how the grass made it so you could communicate with the rock. It's like the grass actually gets inside you. You become one with the grass. Ross even says at one point, like, we are grass. Like, we are grass. Like, he says that. I think while he's killing Cal, but at some point he straight up says, we are grass. It makes you one with this entity.
No, that scene I was actually going to talk about in particular when we get to it. But, so he touches the rock. It's imbued into his body. You see these, like, grass thing growing into his heart, and his eyes turn, like, whitish blue. Yep. And then you get a cool...
But we don't hang out there too long.
No,
we jump back to the beginning of the movie where Cal and Becky are still walking through the grass, and this time they hear Travis.
Yeah, this is where I just want to point out how cool this little artsy scene was. Please. Of like, so after he touches the rock, you get this shot of the grass moving and laughing and whatnot, and then you have this cult chanting going on over the top of it. Yeah. That's just intensifying with the war drums, and comes to another like peak before we get another shot back to, oh no, guess what? We're back in time again to the day.
Yeah, and like I say, Cal and Becky hear Travis. And
he hears them, but he thinks he's just tripping it. He thinks he's lost his mind. He's like, what? I'm hearing her make that nursery rhyme. What?
Yeah. But he eventually yells out Becky, and she's like, Travis? And Cal's like, Travis? What are you doing here? How did you get here before us?
He's like, no, I came after.
Well, no. He's like, no, he's starting to get the vibe of the place. Because he's like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like, he's straight up like, look, shit's weird here, but I don't have time to deal with it right now. And at this point, Tobin chimes in because he has found his dog Freddy, which is super sad and depressing. But it gives Travis an idea. Because if you're next to a dead dog, doesn't mean dead things.
Now this
will be a point in time that is still, and we can all converge on you don't move Tobin.
But remember, Tobin is the one that told Travis this. But Travis told
is now
Tobin
going to tell Tobin this when they get
it's like, which came first? Again. It's the chicken or the egg. Which one came first?
Well, that one's a little easier because Tobin that touched the rock would have gotten that information anyway. Because the rock tells you everything. So...
But I thought he'd only found that out because Travis had met him earlier and told him that, and that's why he knew that.
That's possible as well, but I assume that...
See, this is the issue with this time loop stuff.
When it tells you everything, I assume it would tell you, hey, I don't fuck with this.
This is the issue with that time loop stuff because you don't get a real, like, solid continuity of who did what first.
Yeah.
But yes, Travis comes up with a brilliant idea.
They are able to converge.
Like, wherever Tobin is, will yourself towards him because that's we'll be able to find that one spot. It won't move.
Yeah, and sure enough, for the first time, we kind of get like a clump reunion because Becky, Cal, Tobin, and Travis all end up together, which is, like that's what we've been wanting since this movie started.
This is the crazy part.
Yeah.
This is the crazy part. It's like, how did you already get here? We've only been gone for 2 days.
2 months.
No, dude, it's been more like 2 months. You guys never showed up in California.
You've been gone for 2 months. Your parents gave up finding you. Everyone has given up finding you. They said, I was crazy to come look for you. Which is like...
And guess what?
What?
This is backfiring because Cal is pissed, but Becky's like, oh, you came and looked? Uh-huh. You didn't stop us?
You didn't give up on us.
Yeah.
And Cal's like giving the old eye roll like...
He's like, fuck.
And here, again, at this point, I still wasn't sure if I was on Cal's side again. Because I was like, deadbeat dad, like, I told you to abort the baby. I don't know if you do want him around. Like, it's going to take a little more than this one act of attrition to put him back in the good graces. So, like, I was like, maybe you should give Travis another chance. But I also was like, I completely get where the older brother's coming from. That it's like, this guy's a piece of shit. Do not let this piece of shit back into your life.
Yeah.
So I was still on the fence about those two. Becky says they need to get a move on because she feels like someone's watching them.
Well, no. Not only that. Mm-hmm. That's very obvious that somebody is fucking watching them. They straight up show an eyeball peeking at them. Yeah. But when she starts having pregnancy pains, did nobody else hear the creatures growling in the background? No one else heard the creatures in the grass making those...
This grass is too noisy. Everybody misses these subtle things. But I will say, Travis...
Smart man, Boy Scout.
Very clever. Comes up with the idea of the Tobin Tower. Puts Tobin on his shoulders. And
he's like, hey, point us towards the bowling alley.
First he's like...
Building.
Point us towards the church.
Yeah.
And he's like...
Doesn't
see it, but I see a building. He's like, is that the church? He's like, I don't know. It's too far away. And they're like, well, let's start moving in that direction. And as long as you keep eyes on it, you're okay. So Tobin keeps his eyes on this, what turns out to be the bowling alley, and they start walking towards the bowling alley. And they kind of compare notes as they go.
Yeah, so as they're going, trying to do this Tobin Tower navigation, because the only way that they can keep an eye on the building is through Tobin. Yeah. So as they're heading towards it, they kind of have a little bit of a break to give, pregnant lady a breather. Mm-hmm. And this is where we have I'll call it a heart-to-heart, a sweet moment between baby daddy and baby mama.
It's like, oh, it's a girl?
Yeah, and Becky tells Travis that the baby's a girl, and she's going to name her Ginny, which is named after her Aunt Virginia. Yeah. And while they're having this moment, Travis is very choked up. He's like, it's a girl?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's a girl? And he's just looking at her belly.
Oh, it's kicking, and she takes his hand and puts him on the belly to feel
And he's like, oh my God, she's a real feisty one.
Yeah.
Cal is just death glaring him. Yeah. You could feel the hatred.
Yeah.
Just a death glare through the baby daddy.
Yeah. Cal is not happy with her letting Travis back in. This is also when we get the mysterious phone call. Yeah. Which I fucking love.
You get a woman. This also adds, I think, to me, adds an extra layer of his clinginess because he was already being a little touchy-feely clingy with his sister, and then after this moment with Travis, he's even more up his sister's ass, making sure he grabs her by the shoulders and guides her and touches her.
I think some of that is in response to this phone
jealousy
call, though.
But they couldn't understand. My understanding is that they couldn't understand what was being said.
I mean,
quote unquote.
I had the subtitles on, so maybe I understood more than they did, but like, it says, do not let Cal hurt the baby. Do not leave Cal alone with Travis. Keep an eye on both, or keep them both close. Or something to that effect.
You can't let Cal hurt Travis. Don't leave him alone with him.
Yeah. And
if we do, we'll keep making the same mistakes.
And yes. And at that point, Travis starts giving Cal the side eye, like... And it's funny because, again, all the actors in this are superb. Because you get two simultaneous things. One... Oh, should I be keeping an eye on this motherfucker? And two, this guy gonna hurt me? Look at this little weenie. Like, he's 140 pounds soaking wet. So it was kind of like a incredulous, but also distrustful look. And after that, you're right. Cal gets even more clingy. I think Cal at least heard the part about Cal. And was like, oh no, my sister's not gonna trust me. I need to be even more supportive of her and shit. Because Cal gets you're right, he gets super clingy after that. Like, it's creepy how clingy.
Yeah, because the first thing I noticed is she's like, don't let him hurt Travis.
Yeah.
And he's like, because if he does, that's what keeps us in the loop.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so his Judas effect is what keeps them stuck. And if they can break that cycle, they'll get to fucking live.
Yes,
well,
maybe. That's at least...
hypothetically.
That's Becky's plan.
Yeah,
that's
just the
Becky's
assumption.
Thoughts on the matter. And... Two Belts Becky starts having some grass hallucinations.
Well, no. It wasn't just hallucination, bro. It wasn't just hallucination. As she's walking, the grass slithers up her fucking dress and into her uterus.
Well, I can't tell how much of that was hallucination, how much of it wasn't.
I had to double check and confirm that it was to get some explanation. Like, yes, it was the grass trying to influence her pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because it went inside of her, it basically caused her to have visions of the prophecy.
Okay. Because I know that Ross ends up saving her life.
It was kind of an Evil Dead looking thing.
Yeah.
Like, it went up inside of her, fucked with the baby, so the baby's, no matter what they do, the baby's gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna fucking be dead. And when she starts having these seizures and visions of the plant people, the sky's turning blood red. It looks like a death metal music video. It looked awesome. The weird, like, basket faces of spiral grasses that they had.
Loved the grass people.
Yeah.
So... they're just dudes without, like, clothes, but their heads are just like
a spiral of tall grass.
Bunches of grass, and one of them had like a spiral hole in the middle that was turning. Oh man, like these grass people, you got to see them.
Really cool.
They look so good. Yeah, and again, Ross appears out of nowhere and gives her mouth to mouth and brings her back.
Saves her and the baby.
I'm like, okay, Ross, not a bad guy. I didn't know he was just saving the baby to sacrifice to his weird rock god at this point. So I was like, yeah, Ross, our hero, saving the day.
But when he comes back in, I remembered, you got to be on edge with this guy, because he once again says, oh yeah, my wife's just right around the bend, guys. You know, I found her finally. We just got to go over here.
And I know I can show you the way out. So he leads them back to the rock. Because, I should have mentioned, when they sit down to rest, they lose sight of the bowling alley. And when Tobin goes back up on the shoulders, it's no longer anywhere nearby. Because you can't take your eyes off anything that except dead things. The only thing you can trust to stay in one place is the rock and dead things. Everything else is everywhere.
And it's funny, too, because they asked the same question again.
Yeah.
They hadn't asked him this question before, because this timeline didn't happen. But they asked him the same question again to Ross of like, well, if you already got to the road, why did you come back?
He's like, oh, my wife.
And my kid.
My wife. Well, he didn't say kid anymore. He's
like, well, my wife is still in here.
Wife. Yeah.
And they're just, like, they still kind of give him a side eye, like, well, okay. Yes. And so they finally, like, follow him. And I thought it was really creepy the way that Ross was singing Shine a Light on Me.
Yeah. It's also the song that ends up in the closing credits.
Making dad jokes, too.
I love in my field. That part charmed me. I was like, oh, this Ross guy's a funny guy. And he immediately picks Travis out.
And he passive-aggressively blames Travis for them being in the predicament. Yeah. He's like, well, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, you anyways.
Yeah.
Well.
And Travis is like, immediately takes responsibility. He's like, I'm sorry. And Ross is immediately like, dude, not your fault. This place is weird.
He says more weird shit. He's like, hey.
He tries to, like, get some camaraderie because he's like, hey, you were in a band? I was in a gospel band. And I'm like,
I was about to bring that up, too.
Not the bragging point you think it is, Rossi.
Well, what he says to Travis about, don't worry about it, it's just fate. He said that he's like, just like whenever he discusses being in that gospel rock band, it was his fate to not do that, because originally he was going to, quote, take his Gibson and rock the world with Jesus. But then Natalie got pregnant and they settled down.
Yeah.
So again, slight passive aggression. Be like, I could have been a Jesus rock star, but
Tobin ruined it.
Yeah, and that damn white
knocked Natalie up.
And he's trying to relate. He's trying to, be like, yeah, we're not so different, kid.
Yeah, you and me. We're like two rockers in this world. Yeah, it was embarrassing.
It did hurt though when he pegged him right on the head. He's like, "What? Lead singer of a band?" Because Travis is like, "Oh yeah, I recognize this song." He's like, actually, it was a spiritual hymn. Did you know that?
Yeah. Again, he's acting like he's like, "Oh yeah, this is just I know this stuff because of my business to know people." It's like, no,
you're a doctor. You're a doctor. How are you supposed to profile people like that? Like, that's part of your job as a doctor, is to profile people?
No, he's not a doctor. He's a real estate agent.
I thought he was a doctor.
No, he's a real estate agent.
I thought he was a fucking doctor.
Yeah. Because that's what he's talking about in the phone call. Like, it's all real estate terms. He even says...
See, I thought he was a doctor. That's why he saved her with CPR and had the fucking little... He had the little medical fanny pack. Okay.
Yeah, he is just a real estate agent. Just all about that real estate. But... long story short, they come out into a clearing, and surprise, surprise, there's a big rock there. Yes, it is the rock. For the third time, we have come to the rock. And Ross is telling everyone, hey, touch the rock, and you'll know
it's
the way
the
out.
most majestic
Just
thing
like
ever.
I did. Yeah, he called it majestic. And he said, it's not blasphemous.
It's been here for eons.
Yeah,
longer than you, longer than I, and even after.
Some Native American tribes.
Yeah.
Which I assume he did not know before he touched that rock.
And once again,
right before some touching happens, Natalie comes busting out. This is our first time meeting Natalie.
You only heard her voice this entire time.
But finally, she is here, and she starts a marital spat. She's like, do not trust anything Ross says. He attacked me, and
she saw him kill Becky.
Yeah,
because she's like, wait, I saw Becky's body dead out in the field.
Yeah,
I watched you kill her.
Yep. And Ross is not cool with that. Now, this is where Becky gets her crazy flashback with the grass babies and like the evil Ross with like one of his eyes fucked up.
No. He grabs her and he just sees. She sees Ross as he is, where he's like floating in the weeds and his eyes are rolled back.
She gets grass babies. She gets evil Ross with one eye bad. So
no, his eye wasn't bad. It was both eyes were just like rolled back in his head.
Oh, I thought it was
he hadn't lost his eye. That comes right after this. Right after this, he loses his eye.
Well, I thought it was foreshadowing that he was going to lose his eye.
No, when he touches her again, she sees the future him.
Okay.
Yeah.
With that one eye. Okay.
Yeah.
And I like this because Travis is like, we're going to go our own way. And he straight up...
No! Touch the rock!
He straight up invites Natalie and Toby. He's like, hey, you guys want to roll with us? Like, Ross is going to let that happen. Like, hey, is it cool if I take your wife and child away from you?
It's like, it seems like your husband's all strung out on rock.
Yeah. Ross decides to drop some rock gospel. Ross is dropping that Rossi rock gospel. And I like this. He talks about, do you think that I was giving you the soft sell because I wasn't willing to go the other way? Now, Goreship, I have to ask, are you familiar with the soft sell versus the hard sell? They're two sales tactics.
Yeah, I've heard of them, but I don't. In this particular instance,
this guy, as a real estate agent, he's talking about the closing on a house. Yeah. He's like a soft sell versus a hard sell. But I like that he's putting this in in
real estate lingo, sales pitch terms.
He's like, did you think that I'm doing the soft sell because I don't want to go the other way? He says it's better if you touch the rock voluntarily.
Yeah.
But that means I'm still willing to force you to touch the rock.
And his reasoning, I love that he's like, the grass brings everyone in here for a reason. Yeah. Whether it's to redeem them, it's your destiny. Whether it's to redeem you or wash away all your imperfections and flaws, the grass knows you. It brought you here for a reason. Yep. Now touch the fucking rock, and he grabs the hand and tries to fucking like.
He also talks about how much knowledge you gain from the rock, and I got very Garden of Eden vibes of like the tree of knowledge. Yeah. Like, eat of this tree, and you shall know as God, but also you'll be cursed and kicked out of the Garden of Eden. This is the inverse of that. You eat of this tree and you're stuck in the Garden of Eden forever, but it's not a great garden. It's not as nice as advertised.
Now, when he's finally losing his shit, and he's like, "Look, I could force you to do it," and he tries to grab her hand and make them touch the rock.
Yep.
And he's like, "No, let us go." Ross turns around and goes, "Is that a threat?" And the grass just stops and everything's dead silent. I was like, "Whoa!"
I really expected the grass to fucking start pulling out phones and going, "World Star!" Because it did. Everything just stopped. Like, oh shit, they did not just. Yes, they did.
And it's funny because he's like, "No, you're gonna touch the fucking rock." He's like, "Do it now," and he starts fucking punching Travis and like getting into a fight.
He kind of starts whooping Travis's ass.
Oh yeah, he whoops Travis' ass and
he's got that grass power,
bro. Cal just stands there like a bitch ass, holding on to. "Oh, it's okay, Becky. It's okay."
It was very frustrating because Travis rightly says we have you outnumbered 5-1. It's like, that's only true if all the 5 of you are going to fight. If 3 of you are going to stand on the fucking sidelines, that's no longer true.
And well, while Ross is beating the shit out of Travis initially, he like bashed his head into the rock and then fucking like kicks him while he's on the ground, trying to strangle him to death. Natalie's like, "Fuck it, I'll save him." Yeah. And
she does okay.
She gets knocked down to the ground, and Ross picks her up and starts fucking squeezing on her head. And Tobin screams, "Dad, stop! Don't worry, son. It's only flesh. And underneath, we're all grass."
We're all grass.
Look,
there's the line.
And he squishes her fucking head like a goddamn
grapefruit.
Yeah,
watermelon.
Eyes pop
Name
out.
A fruit.
But the craziest part,
it popped. Yep.
The craziest part is when he did that. Did you see the grass growing underneath her fucking like behind her eyes? And yeah, I was like, "Oh shit, he's right. It is all just. It's just a meat suit. Yeah. It's just meat."
I didn't think. See, that was one of the parts I didn't like, because I wasn't sure if I'd seen that. I thought I did, and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. After watching the movie from start to finish, she didn't touch the rock, so she shouldn't have grass in her. That seemed weird to me. She shouldn't have been grass, I didn't think, because
if he killed her as a sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, no, you're right. It is very confusing because we never saw a timeline. We never saw more than that one scene with Natalie.
Yeah. So I was like, how did the grass get into her? Like,
it was confusing.
Unless it just climbed in her the same way it climbed in Rachel. But we get our dog back. That's the good news. Yeah, they run away.
They start running, and they find Ross. Freddie. Freddie's like, "Follow me." Yeah. Freddie leads them to the abandoned bowling alley.
Good old dogs. Dogs are always the heroes. I will say this, though. It seems I know why they couldn't stay, but it also seemed like a bad move to run through the grass because Ross can travel the grass as he
knows which way to find them.
Because the rock is leading him. Which we find out shortly after they get inside the bowling alley and lock up tight behind him.
So they're in the bowling alley, and
so Cal and Travis can have it out.
Yeah, I love that scene where they get in there, and the only thing Cal does to help is painfully push Travis's shoulder back into place.
Yeah,
that's about all he can do to help.
Although, again, I'll give him credit. Like, it seems like the kind of shitty thing he would do to just leave Travis with his arm not fixed.
And so Travis is like, "Why the hell didn't you help?" And Cal basically justifies his inability to do anything. He's like, "Well, you abandoned my sister. You're a deadbeat. You told her to get an abortion." Yeah. That was his justification for almost letting him die. Yeah. He's like, "Well, you abandoned my sister, and
I wasn't going to abandon my sister the way you did. Like, I
and let something happen to this baby."
Yeah, exactly. Which, fine, whatever. Travis is kind of like,
Yeah, of course nobody's good enough for your sister, bro. Yeah. I've never been good enough. Because you're too busy playing husband for her. I guess it's the closest thing to fucking her.
Yeah.
Straight up calls him out for it. Whew. He's like, you're just playing husband because you want to fuck your sister.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not the only one who fucking saw it.
First of all, I will say, the bowling alley, a nice change of scenery from the grass.
Yeah.
It is nice. Abandoned bowling alleys are cool. They're a very cool place to have a scene. But before they can settle this conflict...
They throw one punch.
Yeah, one punch is thrown, and then Ross is beaten on the door.
And I love that it's very... You know it. It's a very movie TV trope where they do the one punch and they just grab each other by the collars and then all of a sudden it's just
They're kind of just shaking each other.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in that scene.
Yeah.
So, like, fucking Cal throws a punch, pussy-ass punch, because Travis is like, okay, and they start tussling.
Yeah. And then Ross
is like,
interrupts
hello!
them. Yeah. Ross is beating on the door like medieval dudes used to beat on castles. Like, he has, like, a battery. He's, like, smashing the door. Now, they end up going up to the roof.
Trying to find an escape ladder.
Yeah, they're looking for a way out. And it's neat because there's a small patch of grass in the parking lot. And you see the dog go into the grass and not come out the other side. And I'm like, wow, even these little patches of grass have that power. And then they talk about the holes.
Yes, and so I laughed a little bit because when they're up there looking around, they're like, fuck, the road's right there. How do we get past that little patch of grass to the road?
Yeah. And the dog's like, I got you, fam.
Well, when the dog shows up, Cal's like, man, that dog's fucking creepy. I hate that dog. It's so fucking creepy.
And at that point, I was like, well, I trust the dog more now than I did before you said it was creepy. The dog just
looks up at him, and then it walks around the grass, and then Travis is like, wait, where the fuck did he go? That's got to be one of those holes, because now he's over there by the church.
He's where we're trying to get.
Yeah.
Because you can see the church from the bowling alley, and they all mentioned having passed by it.
Dude, when I saw how little of a strip of like grass was in between
heartbreaking.
I was like, that's it?
Yeah.
That's it?
It was hard.
I was like, if you were an Olympian, you could just jump over that shit.
Hell yeah. It was very sad.
Like, bro, why didn't you take the dead crow's body and just drag it with you to the exit?
Yeah. And Travis is trying to get a closer look, and like, he's holding on to like a drain pipe or something, right?
It's the sign of the building.
Oh, it's the sign of the building, and it crumbles under him because, hey, old bowling alley.
But good old Cal catches him
and smirks at him and lets him go. And I was like, that is your point of no return, Mr. Cal.
Now, there's a little double-sidedness to that. I have to ask you, do you think he did it willfully, or do you think that the voices that were whispering to him told him to? Do you think... Because I couldn't really read...
I was watching this with someone, and they were like, oh, I think the grass told him to. I'm like, I'm not giving him that out
because he didn't touch the rock. Yeah.
Which means... I'm saying it's all Cal, baby.
Okay.
Like, I'm saying it's all Cal. But again, you do hear the grass whispering, but I think it's just because the grass is excited. Like, fuck Travis.
Yeah.
Fuck
and he smirks and lets him drop to his death.
Yeah.
And so when he turns around, Tobin totally saw that happen. Totally watched Cal kill him.
And Cal's like,
buddy.
You
didn't see... No.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go out here. And then he straight up lies to his girl.
Yeah, well, he wishes.
his soon-to-be girlfriend, Becky. Nothing in his way now. Travis is right behind us. Let's go. He's right behind us.
Yeah, well, wait, what'd you do to him? You did something, didn't you?
Yeah. And by the way, the reason they're now able to go out the front door is because Ross has climbed onto the roof of the building with his grass powers.
Yeah.
So he's climbing up, so now they can escape out the front door, which is what they do. But, for some reason, Becky is wondering where Travis is.
When she realizes when they're trying to escape, because not only are they trying to escape, she's going into more intensive labor pains. Yep. So that's making this escape even more intense.
Yeah, Cal's trying to yank her along. She's trying to go back for Travis, and she's like, wait, did you do something to Travis?
Because she remembers the phone call.
And Cal's like, forget him. He's a piece of shit. He's a deadbeat, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, appalled, because of course you would be. Here's what I don't understand.
Well, it was all...
If you were Cal, why would you not lie and say, I didn't want to tell you we were on the roof and he fell? Why would, when she said, did you do something to Travis, not say anything? That makes you look pretty fucking guilty, Cal.
It's also the line of wording. Yeah. Where's Travis? We have to go. He's right behind us. No, where's Travis? Travis? It's like, he was a deadbeat.
Yeah.
Was?
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah. No, did you?
Did you do something?
Yeah, so you still had a possible
But he said was, and so she knew as soon as he said was, just like, what did you do?
Yeah. But he could have been like, oh, he died, I didn't do it, but I'm sorry.
So Becky's like, fuck off me, and she runs off without him.
And Cal says, I love you. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, not time for that.
Reading the wrong...
You sick duck.
Yeah, like, Becky, I love you.
She wisely gets the fuck away from him, which I think we can all agree, best choice.
Yeah, she runs off, and he, of course, the grass separates them because it's like, nah, dude, you ain't catching now.
Cal tries to chase her. And I love this scene.
Ross pops up right behind him.
Favorite scene in the whole movie.
Ross pops up right behind him.
Yeah.
And basically confronts him and is like, I know why you did what you did to try and keep your sister close. Because you felt that if she had that baby, she would just forget all about you. And
chances are, yeah, you're right. She would have.
And I love it because Cal's like, oh, fuck, and he starts running.
Yeah.
And he's running, and...
You see a very cool scene of Cal running, and Ross is running behind him, and Ross takes a sidestep into the grass.
Yep.
And then comes out in front of Cal and knocks the shit out of him. Like, does a football tackle.
Yep.
Takes Cal down. It's so cool because it's so quick. Ross steps out to the left, comes back in from the front. He has that Jason Voorhees Friday the 13th teleport ability where he can just all of a sudden be in front of you. It's another gift from his grass gods.
I love when he's got him down on the ground.
And this speech is so fucking good.
You read it.
Well, I only have the one line. In the Garden of Taking Paths, you didn't make one choice. You made all choices. And they all led back to me. And then Cal looks over... And there's just dead Cals everywhere.
Yes!
Which means there is no reality in which he did not try to fuck his sister. Not one. Every reality he kills
There's no timeline in this grass. There's no timeline in this grass where he does the right thing.
Where he does the right thing.
So he's forever in that, like, even after the events of this movie, he is forever going to be stuck in that timeline loop of him being killed by Ross over and over.
How many of the grass heads are Cals, or just different Cals? Because there's a lot of dead Cals around.
True.
But that is my favorite scene in the whole movie, that speech. And then Cal looking around.
In a field of endless choices, you could have gone left when you should have gone right. You could have gone right when you...
you were thinking, what if I'd gone left? What if I'd gone right? Well, guess what? You did go
You
left.
made every choice possible, and every choice led back to me.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, that's a Batman villain.
It's so good.
That's a Batman villain.
Yeah, it's so... That is my favorite.
And I love, as he's strangling Cal to death, they pan away. So you just see Cal struggling, being choked out and, like, out of focus in the background, and you just see all the different, like, layers of decomposition of different Cal bodies. Yeah. Like, you see one that's
some of him have been here for years.
One that's kind of fresh, one that's been here for a couple months, one that's basically bones. Yeah. So, yeah, he's forever going to keep dying.
But as Becky said, in the loop. He's stuck in the loop. They can get out of the loop. Cal's going to be doing this forever. Which, hey, that's good.
But so I'm of two minds in this because of the way this movie ends.
Yeah.
Cal is forever and is not forever stuck in the loop.
I think so is Travis, though.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
I think so is Tobin.
Yeah, like there's timelines where all three of those are technically four men. In
Maybe
the movie.
Natalie and Ross as well. I also have the question that what made Travis go after her was her disappearing off the map for 2 months. If she doesn't disappear off the map,
that time
does he just? Well, my question is, does he just stay a deadbeat dad?
That's what I was thinking.
Because he finds out that she went to San Diego and gave up the baby, and he's like, "Cool."
Well,
wash my hands.
She decides to do the opposite of that. So
yeah.
I mean, all right. But anyways, so family. Travis has. Sorry, I lost my place. Anyways, Ross gets done killing Cal. We see all the dead bodies. Love that shot. Probably the most
best thing in the movie.
Best scene in the movie. Yeah. Speech and everything, and then we cut back to a unconscious Travis laying on a bunch of other dead Travises.
Yep. That helps.
So
that helps your fall.
His dead versions of himself cushioned his fall.
Yeah.
Because Cal just kept killing, just like Cal's dead bodies were stacked up in the field, and there were so many of them. There were so many dead Travises all dying in the same place.
I mean, if I'm gonna die repeatedly, bowling alley's not a bad place for it.
But you died in the back alley where people take a piss and snort coke.
Yeah, but before that, maybe I got a couple frames in. You don't know. But we're leading up to. This is also where we finally hear about that San Diego trip was to for an adoption, for a family adoption. This sets us up for the Ross eye stabbing, which I'm a big fan of.
Travis is banged up pretty bad. Maybe
he's crawling towards the grass now.
Yeah, and then he eventually is able to stand up on one hobbled leg. Yeah. Becky's laying in the field, basically almost going into fucking labor, and they're calling out for each other, and they're not far away. This is just like the beginning, where Tobin was almost like 5 feet away from them.
Reach out your hand.
I can almost see you. I can almost hear you. Just reach out for me. And you can see when they're discussing, talking about how Becky's sorry, that she just wants him to be here right now. Yeah. That this plan was gonna change everything, and I just thought that I could have a better life. Very sad closure for the two of them, and Travis admits that he didn't want to run away.
Yeah,
it's a nice closure on that aspect of a relationship that has only been.
You had to have this heart to heart. You had to have it.
It was a dangling thread from the very beginning when you saw that baby bump, and so. Travis gets that little bit of closure, and right as they're about to touch fingers through the grass, Ross grabs Becky and drags her away.
Oh, I was under the impression the hand she was reaching for was the grass had moved her so that it was Ross she was reaching for, and he grabbed her.
No, he grabbed her from behind.
Oh, okay. I missaw that then.
Because their fingers are almost touching, and right as she's
cool. I'd much rather you see the hands coming and it actually be Ross's hand, because the grass moved them, but. Fine,
because that's why Travis freaks out. He's like, "Oh, Becky," because he could see her fingers coming through the grass.
Oh, I thought he freaked out because she started screaming loudly. I mean, the same reason everyone freaks out because Becky is quite the screamer.
Honestly, the way that this was filmed, you could justify both of those reactions.
Yeah. But he gets Ross has kidnapped her. That part we are clear on.
Yes, that's agreed.
And when she was walking earlier, she saw the scalpel or the scissors on the ground. Which is why she doesn't get killed this time, because she's able to use those as a weapon. Because time intersections, again.
Before we get the...
Oh, and Ross mentions this is where he first encountered his wife. He's like, oh yeah, this is where I first assaulted my wife.
This is where I first disposed of Natalie.
Yeah.
But it was very weird when Ross has a hold of Becky. He straight up says, "Want to touch the rock? Want to lay on it naked under the pinwheel stars with me inside of you?"
I straight up said if I knew he was going to be so romantic, I would have submitted to this way sooner. I didn't know Ross was such a Valentine. What a little woo.
And then as she starts crying and fighting back against him, he's forcefully laying her down onto the ground. He says, "Oh, tears are nice, but blood is much better for an old rock like this one."
Yeah.
Oh my god. And that gives Becky the chance, because now she's laying down next to all the fanny pack stuff. She reaches out and remembers, oh yeah, there were scissors here.
Yeah.
She stabs this fucking rapey bastard in his eyeball and jets off, just like she needed to.
Then we have it starts raining, and we have I always love a good slow motion rain scene with the grass beating, with the water beating on the grass in slow motion, and it was upside down, and the camera spins proper ways. I was like,
Now, this was
I always like that.
This was another one of those things that maybe if I read the book, I would understand it, but in the movie, it made no sense because we haven't really seen these guys other than in visions.
Yeah.
But when Becky is running, why did she all of a sudden get stopped and grabbed by grass creatures and taken back to the rock?
So she can have a baby at the rock?
Because the grass came alive and took her.
Yeah.
But, this is the first time we're ever seeing, the grass creatures actually do anything that wasn't just Ross.
Yeah.
So this is what threw me off. I was like, is it ramping up all of a sudden? Did all of a sudden the grass creatures start actually doing their own fucking bidding?
Time based. Maybe it's rain based. I have no idea.
Yeah. So
maybe it's the closer, because this baby obviously has significance, because there's pictures of the baby being born and sacrificed on the rock.
Some next scene is so fucking.
Some of the hieroglyphics are that. So maybe the closer you get to the birth, the more powerful it gets, or maybe the more blood that's spilled.
That's what I was thinking.
Because we have another dead cow, and we have her and him bleeding all over the place. So maybe he's more able to manifest. I'm calling it he. It is more able to manifest grass people at this point. But for whatever reason, you get the army of these really cool grass people picking her up and carrying her to give birth in front of her.
And they just lay her down in the mud in front of the rock, and when she wakes up in the pouring rain, her phone all of a sudden has, like, bars. And this is another one of those things that I question is, like, so you have your own cell phone.
Yeah.
And you called yourself.
Yeah. But you didn't get a busy signal because that would only work if you were calling your phone in the same time frame.
Yep.
You're calling your phone fast, so somehow that bypasses the busy signal and you're able to leave yourself a message. And this is where she warns about Cal.
Yeah, she makes the phone call, the premonition that says, don't let Cal hurt Travis, don't leave him, or else we're going to keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Then she starts going into labor, just like the prophecy on the stone.
She fulfills her birthing prophecy, and
when she does start going to labor, the ground in front of the rock opens up, and you see this amalgamation of human bodies of different various ages, like grown into these roots below the rock.
Yeah, under the rock is just roots for miles down. I mean, this thing goes down for days and days and days, and I can't tell if the people are part of the roots or if they're intertwined around the roots.
It looks like they are grown into
souls, it. This horrible wall of souls of just roots and people and mud and rain, and it's all gray and
just screaming in agony constantly.
She is giving birth next to this gaping maw, which is just terrifying. And all these people in the roots are like reaching up and like basically baying for blood. They're and nursemaid Cal shows up. It's actually Ross, but he's got like a Cal glamour on, so he looks like her brother. And
well, at the peak of the thunderstorm, Becky finally gives birth and passes out, and she's like half hallucinating, wakes up to, a very loving brother, Cal.
Yeah, Cal's here to help. He's like, hey, look, you got a baby, here it is. Look how nice and fresh it is.
And holding onto the baby, cooing and cawing it, and she passes out once again.
He compares it to Jesus. He talks about the three wise
Mary.
Mary in the manger, the three wise men. I wonder what gifts they will bring us, he says. Which is, coming from him, super creepy.
And now she's, once again, like half awake, very out of it, just gave birth, and she lost a lot of
water from the mud, and then feeding her things.
He's giving her quote unquote water from the mud.
Yeah.
But as he gives her the water from the mud, you notice that there's a single, maybe one or two red droplets falling in the water that he's touching.
Well, that's when he's feeding her the grass.
I noticed when he went like this and he held his hand up.
Is he giving her placenta or baby? I couldn't tell.
Baby.
Okay.
He fed her fucking baby, bro.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, what am I eating? And Cal, which is actually Ross, is like, oh yeah, it's just grass. You're eating grass and nuts and berries, just like nature intended.
Yeah, cows do it.
But the whole time that you see her eating it, you see this red.
Well, at first she is getting, like, you do see him give her a few blades of grass. So, but then about the third mouthful, it's like
chunks
juicy.
Of meat,
and there's like
makes a squelching noise when she chews on it.
And she's like, "What is this?"
He's like, "It's good for you. It's
what
good for you."
What does it taste like? Does it taste like you? And she looks over, and there's just a gooey pile, which
it's her baby that you don't quite see. You just see a bloody mess of blanket and what should be baby parts, and that's when she realizes it's not Cal that's been feeding her this whole time, and
it's Ross, One-Eyed Ross, the super pirate. Then we get another great. Again, I will never get tired of the overhead shots of the grass with someone traveling through. So, like, the grass is only being disturbed in one place where you know something's moving down there, but you can't see what it is.
Yep.
It's such a good shot, and they use it so many times to great effect. This time, though, it's Travis. Travis looking for the Becky again.
He finds Becky pass out in front of the rock near death. She's not dead yet.
I think he thinks she is, though.
But she looks like she's just about fucking dead. Because her eyes are open and she's got a faraway stare.
And he's doing the cry next to her.
And he realizes that the baby is no longer in her stomach. And then he looks over and sees the viscera of the leftover remains of his daughter.
And then Tobin makes another appearance. If you had forgotten about Tobin, he is back, baby. And
he confirms.
He gives the very good news that this is just going to keep happening.
He's going to keep killing us. My dad did it, and he's going to keep doing it.
Yeah, which, I mean, he ain't wrong. It's not great news, but he's not wrong. Ross attacks Travis. Of course.
Travis gets the balls to call him out. He just straight was like, "Come out here, fucking fight me."
Which a bad move because Travis again is whooping ass.
Ross is whooping that ass. Yeah.
I'm like, Travis, please stop picking these fights. You are not winning. But Becky wakes up long enough to give Ross another blinder.
I love when Ross initially attacks Travis because he fucking just starts drowning him in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, is like...
And he's talking shit the whole time. Like, oh, I liked you, man. I thought you were cool.
Yeah. He's like, I thought we could have had a real
like, why are you
buddy time, but I guess I'll just have to...
this guy?
I'll try with the next Travis.
Yeah.
And then he fucking, like, grabs a fucking bone out of that same mud he was just drowning him in and stabs him in the goddamn gut with it.
It's cool because like one end is like a club and the other is sharp. So he clubs him in the head and then stabs him in the fucking gut.
Yeah,
like, that is a multi-purpose tool, my friend. Like good grab, Ross.
and whenever he stabs him, he's like, all right, well, now that the dude's out of the way, Tobin, get over here and touch the rock. So this is the timeline where Tobin... the first time we met was forced to touch the rock. Yep. This is where that timeline comes from, where Travis would have died.
Yeah, but this time it is prevented
because Becky
is not quite dead. She's got enough left in her to give Ross another eye gouge.
Well, first, actually, Travis makes the first save. He smashes Ross's face into the rock repeatedly. Oh, yeah. And the rock...
Hey, Ross, you want this rock so bad? Bang, bang, bang,
the rock starts absorbing the blood. I love that. When the blood splays onto the rock, it doesn't, like, just drip off and... Yeah. No, it, like, soaks into the rock. Yeah. That's so fucking cool.
It needs it.
Well, that doesn't last very long. Ross fights back, knocks Travis back down again, and Becky comes up and stab right in the eye with the fucking crab necklace.
Yeah, to be fair... again, Ross has grass power. Let's not be too hard on Travis. He's trying.
And once he's blind and can't see anything, Travis grabs a couple of tall weeds. Yep. You know how he was looping them together earlier to make markers? He did that same loop, but tied it in a knot around...
He gives him the grass choke.
Yeah, chokes him out.
Chokes him right the hell out.
He stays choking him until he's dead, until you hear like the crunch of his throat.
Which is what you need to do with Ross. Ross is... he's not the kind of guy you want to leave lying around.
And
this is so.
But Becky
sweet.
Is now officially dead.
Yeah,
she used the last bit of her strength to save Travis and Tobin.
And at first, I was so confused by what happened next because Travis looks at Becky, tears running down his face, and then he starts going towards the rock to touch the rock, and I'm like,
he's going to turn himself evil. He's got nothing left to live for.
He just gave up. But no, goddamn Travis,
he used it to his advantage.
He touches the rock so he can find the way out and use it to rescue fucking Tobin.
He sacrifices himself.
Yeah, he sacrifices
because
himself.
Once you touch the rock, you cannot leave.
Well, you don't want to leave, yeah.
I think Tobin said you can't. Like, even if you did want to, you couldn't. Because, like, you're a part of it now. Like, literally the grass grows inside of you.
Yeah. But he touches the rock to save Tobin, which is goddamn beautiful.
I love it,
and he gives him the necklace.
I love when he touches the rock because you see everything light up and you see the overhead shot of the entire tall grass layout, right? Mm-hmm. And then it glows where the paths are to get out.
Yep.
I thought honest to God, cool. The first time I saw it, thought he was setting it on fire. He was turning the power against it, and I thought he was burning the whole thing down.
Yeah.
But then I realized, now I can see every single pathway out of here.
Yeah. Also, it looked like a heart with veins coming out in all directions. Which I'm sure was also intentional. But he gives the necklace that we recall from Becky earlier. He gives that to Tobin. Excuse me. And
you've got to stop Becky and Cal from coming in here.
Yeah, he says you don't belong here. Like
I have to stay. Yeah.
You don't belong here. And he finds one of those holes, like the one that the dog took to get from the bowling alley to the church. He finds a hole that leads to that room that Travis couldn't get in earlier
inside
at the back of the church. Yeah, which is where Tobin ends up.
Now that's why I was so confused. I was so confused when he placed him in between these two grass blades area. I was like, oh, so he's just moving him from one path. I thought he was going to put him right beside the road. That's what I thought he was going to do, put him on the outside. But no, I was like, wait. He's inside of the fucking building across the street. How the fuck? And the door's unlocked? What?
Yeah.
What?
I was just like, oh, it's just
Yeah,
it was just a hole. And I thought of it as it was a hole to the past, but specifically to a past where that door was unlocked. So not necessarily the one we saw at the beginning of the movie, like an alternate timeline where that door was unlocked.
Well, that was the beginning of the movie. In that timeline, because when Tobin comes out of the church, he's there at the exact
moment. What
moment.
I mean is, in this timeline, they don't go into the grass.
Oh, yeah.
So also in this timeline, that door's not locked.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I was thinking anyway. Again, some of this is headcanon, because they leave a lot of questions for you to ponder on your own. But yes, we are at the beginning of the movie, and this time Tobin gets out in time to stop them from
answering the
other Tobin and going into the grass. Thank fucking God.
Yeah, and it's weird because they come out and he's like, no, don't go in there. Cal's just about to walk into the grass.
Cal's like one step away, and I was like, you can let Cal go.
And Becky's like, wait,
you can let Cal go in there.
How weren't you just in the grass?
Yeah, they're both very confused.
And they're like, he's like, yeah, I was. And then they hear him still calling while he's standing in front of them.
Luckily, through a bit of clever name dropping and showing Becky her necklace, Tobin's able to convince them to put him in the car and get his ass to the hospital.
Travis sent me. Like, how do you know? And then gives her the bloody ass crab necklace.
And she holds up her fresh new one, and she's like, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah, this is weird.
Yeah.
Let's get in the car.
Yeah, she's not 100% on board believing him, but she's like, yeah, I don't like this shit. And basically they're like, well, let's get him to a hospital. We'll figure out what to do about the voices.
Let's head back to Topeka.
Well, she's like, let's get him to a hospital, but let's go back the way we came. And he's like, why? And she's like, because I'm going to start a fucking family.
She's like, I have a family.
This kid, yeah. And I might be keeping this one in the backseat too. I haven't decided yet. She's like, damn, she went from no kids to possibly 2 kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny to think, I wonder if in this timeline, Travis is just going to keep being a deadbeat dad.
Really man
if
up.
The only thing that made him man up was them disappearing. Like if Cal and Becky never disappear, he might never feel the need to man up. It's an interesting, what will be in this timeline. But that's how the movie ends, so we don't get to find out.
Yeah, it's a nice drive-away shot with them in the car, and once again, as we're leaving, you just see a shot of this beautiful tall grass whispering in the wind.
Yeah. And the church with a bunch of cars next to it.
Yeah, and so...
Thus ends in the tall grass.
I do believe the whatever time paradox or loops that they were stuck in, I feel like this door, in particular, is closed.
Yeah.
It's already been proven that it's never going to stop. There's
I feel like Tobin at 25 is going to come back with a flamethrower to this place and just start walking.
Maybe he'll become the CEO of a corporation. It's like, yeah, you see these fields? We need to tear it down and fucking build buildings.
Yeah, we are going to build a lot of tall buildings.
I don't want to see a single fucking blade of grass.
All right, Vince McMahon.
I mean, with that kind of trauma, can you blame him?
I want that fucking grass fired. No, I do not. I don't blame him at all. Man, so that was In the Tall Grass, available now on Netflix, and I enjoyed it the second time, and it's definitely a movie worth watching twice, because you see a lot of things you don't see the first time, I would say. I feel like I got a lot more out of it watching it the second time than the first time. Because
the first time you're watching just with wonderment, second time you're watching to analyze.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And any time after that, you're just picking up on things you didn't already see.
Yeah, but it's a movie definitely worth watching multiple times. And
I would probably read the short story.
If it came across my desk, I would definitely read it. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did. But if you don't have anything else to say about In the Tall Grass, I need you to say something about what we're doing next month.
All right. Well, since next month is Halloween, and that is the day we are releasing our episode.
Woot!
And it just so appropriately happens to fall in my lap to pick the movie special. Oh. I am choosing one of my favorite Halloween movies called Haunt.
Haunt.
It's one that my fiance and I love so much. We accidentally found it on Shudder one day, and then it was on Hulu and everything too. And we watched it, and it didn't look like it was going to be good, but I can't wait for a sequel. I hope that there's a sequel. Okay. It's a very, very right up the alley for Halloween. Anybody that loves to go to haunted attractions or scary walk-through houses and stuff, this is a movie for you.
All right. right.
So basically,
I haven't seen Haunt, which is always good for me. I always like watching a scary movie for the first time. Like that always.
Yeah, you'll love it. You'll fucking love it.
I'm here for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my pick for October. We are going to be watching Haunt.
Everyone, Haunt available. You said on Hulu and Shudder.
Yeah, the last time I checked.
Okay. But yeah, look it up. You will find it. It will be around, and there will be a link in the show notes to help you on your way. There will also be a link to the short that Goreship also picked for us called Mystery Box, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this one was a little bit of an older one that I actually had seen, but it was a favorite of mine just because...
Speaking of white people making dumb mistakes.
Yeah. It's also one of those things that I guess I have a penchant for, torture boxes, since I love Hellraiser so much.
Ever since Pandora's Box, it's been a theme in horror movies.
But yeah, no, this month's short is called The Mystery Box, and it is about a woman named Moa who is on vacation in the solitude of the cabin on a small island outside of Stockholm, Sweden.
Okay, so she was speaking Swedish.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew she wasn't speaking English, but I did not know what language she was speaking. So,
One day, when checking her fishing net, an old metal box is stuck in her line. She takes it with her and places it in a shed nearby to dispose of later. Right after dinner, a weird sound is heard outside the cabin. She opens the front door, only to discover the box is at her footsteps. That was the description that they gave, and I will say that I already learned something from that because I assumed that she was just going to pop it open later. Like I thought she'd put like all good dumb people do.
Yeah.
This was a short horror that was directed by Sonny Laguna, produced by Tommy Wicklund, co-produced by David Lijabald, and it was written by Sonny Laguna, Tommy Wicklund, and David Lijabald. Wow. It doesn't have the actress credited,
which is crazy.
Yeah, it's weird.
She was tight,
but we do know that the actress's name, the character, is Moa. M-O-A.
All right, because I never got her because she's by herself through this whole film except the last
and there's no dialogue in the movie.
Well, no, she yells a couple things.
There's 2 times that she says something. Yeah, but for the most part, there's no dialogue up until the first 3.5 minutes. I did not know her name
until just now when Goreship told it to me because it's never said in it because she, like I said, except for the last 20 seconds, she doesn't interact with anyone through this whole thing.
And so the opening of this starts with a lovely scenic
weather we're having.
Lovely oceanic scenic view.
Ocean?
Yeah, it would be the ocean technically, I guess, if we're in Stockholm area because it's not like lakes over there. Yeah. So she's crab hunting. She's crab fishing. Yeah. She's trying to get something in her line. She's by herself, and when she's dragging up her net, it's got a couple fish in it, but there's this giant, weird, old rusty metal box with a big old chain wrapped around it multiple times and a heavy-duty lock on it.
I knew this lady was in trouble because she was wearing the same jacket that kid that died at the beginning of It wore. That same yellow
the yellow
slicker. If you're in a horror movie, you got a yellow slicker on, you're doomed. You're just doomed.
And it seems like a pretty tame thing at first. She finds this weird box and, instead of just throwing it the fuck back, she says, okay, I'll keep it. I didn't get any fucking fish as many fish as I needed, but whatever. So she gets back to her house, she puts it up in her shed.
Yeah.
Cut away to a single woman who's just eating a not descaled fish.
She's a badass.
She didn't cut the head off, she left all the ribs in.
She ate it Japanese style. As is. Cooked it right there and just ate it up. I will tell you something funny. The next scene is of her washing her dishes.
Yeah.
And because it's like a side angle, and there's a bar over her head that I think is like a key ring holder or something, but it looked like a Sims bar. Like okay, her hunger's filled up, but it looks like she needs to use the toilet and her hygiene's kind of low. It really looked like a Sim bar. I got taken out for a second because I was just like, oh, we're playing Sims now.
Jesus. No, I didn't even think about that.
No, it was even looking. No sane
I wasn't
person
looking
would.
at it. I didn't even think about
no sane person would. I saw it, my mind immediately went to, oh, this is one of her gauges in The Sims.
And of course, as most things go, whenever you're by yourself minding your fucking business, well, originally you were minding your business. Until you brought that metal box home, you weren't minding your business.
I mean, it's her net, her business. That box became her business when it decided to get in her net.
Well, she puts it on the shelf in the shed outside. Mm-hmm. Oh. She's all alone. There's nobody else here. She's in a nice little isolated cabin area, right?
Happy. Seems like she's
she hears some rustling knocking around. She goes to the door, and the fucking chained up box is outside of her doorstep.
Yep.
How is that not your first red flag that something terrible is going on here? How do you not just drive back to the ocean and toss it over a cliff?
I would say this was her first mistake, because this is the first thing she did I wouldn't do. Because I definitely would not have thrown that box back. I would have been like, oh my god, this could be a locked box from fucking some stolen, pirate booty. Like, I could retire on what might be in this box. I would have kept the box. But when the box teleported from the shed to my front porch, I would have locked that door and called the popo, because...
Well, no, instead she decides
She takes it back! I'm like, you are walking through the darkness, returning that box. Best case scenario, someone took the box out of your shed and threw it on your front porch to lure you out here.
Well,
to do bad shit to you.
Before she takes it back, she picks it up and looks at it, and she tries to yank on the lock, knowing that there's no way for her to open it, and then she's like, fuck it. So she puts it back in the shed again.
I would have not gone back out there in the dark. I would have been like, there's someone out there moving this box.
Yeah, I wouldn't
have jumped to the conclusion the box
and
was
she's like, alright, let me make sure this door is locked. And she double checks to make sure the shed door is locked. But not to make sure that, there's nobody there that might just be fucking with her.
Yeah.
We're speaking in terms of, if there was a realistic, maybe, serial killer trying to fuck with you.
Yes, I would have never gone back out to that shed at night after the box moved itself to my front porch.
She's like, alright, that was fucking weird. I guess I'll just go lay down for the night.
She is calm.
Yeah, way calmer than you would expect. But so she's laying there,
weirdly calm,
trying to sleep, and she just can't rest. Something is keeping her up. Mm-hmm. And then she starts getting a little tickle in her throat, and she knows I have to. Oh, I'm gonna throw up. Better run to the bathroom. She runs over to the sink, and she thinks she's about to spit something up. She does. She spits up a dirty ass, muddy key that was lodged in her throat somehow,
with a little bit of blood, which was a nice touch because
blood and mud.
You can't get a key out of your gullet without a little pain.
So she spits up a key, and she's like, what the fuck is this? And right as she's looking at the key, you hear more noises, which sounds like a fucking door opening. Like that door that she double-checked to make sure was locked. Yep. And of course,
This time she gets a knife. I'll give her credit for this as well.
Yeah.
I said, if you'd been in America, you could have shot that box. Well, but sadly, I knew, again, because she wasn't speaking English, I was like, I know this is being filmed somewhere in Europe or something, so you don't get to have a gun. If you had a gun, you could just open the door.
She grabs the knife and
12 shots.
Then she grabs her little flashlight.
Yeah.
Her little flashlight. Rather than turning on the hall light, she decides to grab a flashlight, and she turns the light. She turns the flashlight on down a dark hall.
Yeah.
And what do you see? You just see the fucking weird-ass metal box at the end of the hall. No creepy person, no shadow figures, just a box sitting in the middle of your blacked-out
You left
hallway.
the back door unlocked, so I just let myself in. I hope that's cool.
Yeah, this box needs to start paying rent, bro.
Can I crash on your couch for a couple days?
Jeez. And I guess this is the hair that crawled up her ass finally. She's like, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Mistake
she grabs the box.
Is unlocking this fucker.
Hey, I got this key that was just magically lodged in my throat. I'm not freaking out about it.
It's a bad move.
Hey, this key happens to fit the lock of this mysterious box that keeps making its way into my house.
Yeah.
I guess I'll open the fucking lock.
I mean, there is good magic and bad magic, and man, she is an eternal optimist because she is choosing to believe this is good magic even though it made her choke on the key already. But she does. She opens it up, fucking pulls this fucker open, and it is black inside. So black that when she holds the flashlight up, it does not.
It's just the void.
No illumination. Yeah.
And then she does mistake number 3.
Reaches farther than you should be.
Elbow deep.
Yeah.
Elbow deep.
This box, we haven't given you the dimensions, but her arm goes way further in than the box should allow. It goes in too deep. Deeper than the box could.
Dimension-wise, this box is not much bigger than a GameCube.
This is the TARDIS of evil boxes. It is way bigger on the inside. Yeah. She reaches in and yanks her hand out. I thought
this black, gooish...
I thought it had gotten bitten or something, but...
it's gooish ectoplasm.
A slimy spot. She gripped something gooey.
And then, of course, we get the what we all expected to happen. A fucking hand pops out of the box.
Yeah, very, very Ringish of the girl climbing out of the well.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly what I was thinking. This time out of the box. And once again, because the box only has a circumference of 2 or 3 feet by 2 or 3 feet, it's coming out real contorted.
Like first you see a hand, then you see a foot trying to reach out with a hand.
And the hand like reaches to the roof of the box and starts pulling the rest of the body out till the other hand comes out.
And then it's just a girl in an old time doll looking dress with a metal box over her head standing there dripping black water onto your fucking carpet.
Yes, and covered in that slime.
And this woman Moa is just sitting there, not screaming. She screamed a couple times, but she's just
froze.
She's just terrified.
Yeah, at this point she's completely froze and kind of crumpled in the corner-ish.
And now this woman with a box on her head is sinking down and crawling towards her, and just doing the typical scare factor thing where they're trying to make them even more intimidated. And as
it would be sexy in a different context. She's crawling kind of sexily towards Moa here.
As she goes towards Moa, she starts slowly lifting the metal box off of her head.
Some good makeup
and you
work.
don't get to see her face.
Here. Yeah.
You don't get to see
from the nose bottom of the nose down.
You see a mutilated woman's mouth with fucking jagged, grinning rotten teeth. A bloated, water-swelled neck.
You see enough to
and water running down her face. But you never see the actual face until the very end.
Good makeup.
She takes the box off, and she puts it on Moa's head. Starts trying to force it onto Moa's head. And Moa's fighting for like no,
finally
no.
A little fighting,
A little bit of fighting. And once that box gets sunk on top of Moa's head, the girl who was in the box drops dead. Her body dies. She no longer has to be it. And she basically is like, your turn, and puts the box on top of Moa, who now has gone lifeless and limp.
Yeah.
And she's laying there, and as the camera starts panning away, you see the dead, mutilated, waterlogged girl. You see Moa leaned up against the wall with a metal box in her head, and then all of a sudden she twitches.
Yeah.
And you're left to believe that Moa is now the girl in the box.
Yeah. It's that song Man in the Box, but with Moa now.
And we cut to black, and it's very short, sweet, to the point.
Here's the question I want to ask you right off the bat, or not really, because it's the end of the podcast. Right at the end, is the box going to finish eating her and lock back up, or is she going to be walking around with the box on her head as a walking zombie?
I was hoping it was the first.
Well, I still think it can be. I imagine, as she's twitching, it's slowly going to just start sliding down her body until it's completely eaten.
Oh, yeah, that would make
then it's going to seal up again, lock up again, and maybe crawl back to the ocean for someone else to find, or maybe this time it'll be at a garbage dump or an antique shop. It'll go somewhere else and pass the curse on. But, I like the idea of this is Pandora's box, punishing curiosity. Every girl that gets curious meets the same fate. I bet, and again, this is my own headcanon, I bet if she had just let that box drop back down into the water, none of this would have happened. If she had just let it go.
Right?
I don't think seeing
curiosity.
It's enough. Yeah.
Curiosity.
I don't think seeing it's enough. I think you have to bring it with you. You need to take this weight onto yourself for it to become a problem that ends up eating your soul. Again, just guessing, but that's how I feel about it. What are your thoughts here, Goreship?
My thoughts are in the same vein as you. You should have just left it alone. You made so many mistakes you could have backtracked from before it was too late, before it was irreversible.
I would have called the cops around mistake 1.
Hey, I found this mystery metal box inside it. I don't know if it belongs to anyone, or maybe it's got guns in it that you need to register.
If you were worried about the cops, I would have walked outside with the box. I would have thrown it through one of my windows and then called the cops and said, hey, someone threw this box through my window. Then they would take that box as evidence and lock it up in the police precinct, and maybe I'd be free of it. I don't know if that would work, but it sure would work a lot better than opening it up and crawling inside with your flashlight like a goddamn psychopath.
It's just, there's so many, and let alone at night. At fucking middle of the night when you can't sleep and you're all alone. Yeah. This is something you wait till the middle of broad daylight with people around.
Yeah. At night, you need to get in your car and drive away. If you're worried about it being in the house with you, get in your car, go stay at a hotel. Maybe get back in your boat, paddle out to the middle of the water. Don't unlock it.
Have a nice sleep on the ocean.
Of all the mistakes you made, don't fucking unlock it. lady. This is one of those things. I love this short. Like, it's a great short. But it's one of those things where the character has to be intentionally naive for the plot.
Yeah, and that's the only way this works.
That's the only way this works. There are so many ways. Much like The Ring. Like, fucking don't watch it.
And you just look at the logistics of the setting, though. The logistics of the setting is a middle-class white woman who is in a country like Stockholm where crime and weird shit like that isn't super high. Like, murder rates aren't super high.
This is definitely her first time with this kind of stuff.
Her safety, her stranger danger radar alert is not going off.
Yeah, it was all askew.
It's not something that she's, like, familiar with having to keep. Like it's not... It seemed like, yes, she was extremely naive.
Yeah. And
that's because she lived that kind of naive, jaded lifestyle where something like that does not happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I was like, this is nice. Lady. Yeah. Nice little creepypasta-esque, like...
Beautiful cinematography, beautiful makeup, good acting. Like, yeah, it had all the things of a really good piece. I really enjoyed it.
And my favorite part is it didn't take a lot of dialogue to convey a story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very simple. Not as simple as the one from last month, but very simple. Very simple.
Smart ass.
Yeah. Hey, well, no, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, I mean, mine was just a 2-minute test pattern, so, if we're going for simplest. But yeah, it was great. In Tall Grass was great. This episode was great.
It's always a fun time. Always good getting to watch a movie and then get to make something out of.
Wax poetic about it for an hour or two. I'm a big fan. That's why we do this podcast. And if you feel the same way, we would love, some of those delicious 5-star ratings, writing reviews, any of that fun stuff.
Ratings, reviews, recommendations.
Recommend this to your horror-loving friends. And if you want to get in touch with us, all the social medias are in the show notes. We've got all the ways. You can email us to ask us questions or suggest a movie, or to bitch about all the things that we got wrong. Whatever you want to do.
Find us on Instagram.
Yeah, communicate with us through the social medias.
I'm excited for next month. Halloween is my...
Yes? Oh, yeah.
This is my absolute favorite. And,
I am really...
for you, I'm making a sacrifice. I'm making a sacrifice by watching this movie again.
Oh.
Because it's got a clown in it.
Oh my god.
And I'm making that sacrifice. As much as I love this movie, I will watch it again.
Goreship, you big brave boy. Thank you for this.
I do this for you guys.
All our listeners
do this for you.
Appreciate your sacrifice. And I will tell you this. I am glad the pressure of picking the Halloween movie for a horror podcast was on you.
Thank you.
I am feeling enough pressure trying to pick a short for Halloween. I mean, the scariest month of the year. I
gotta deliver.
I gotta fucking come hard. And I will come hard, and in 30 days, you will find out how hard I came.
He's going to come hard and everywhere.
I'm going to come so fucking hard. You are going to feel horrible afterwards. That's my guarantee. But come back in 30 days and feel bad with your horror friends. We will see you then. Much love, much peace, and until next time.
Adios.